start tickling.
Hello and welcome to The Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us for instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur's defeat in the North London derby to Arsenal earlier today. Difficult day. Always a difficult day, it seems, at the Emirates. I'm joined by the majority of the Last Word on Spurs panel, talking you through, providing you with therapy in this next hour or so in terms of that defeat, Antonio Conte's tactics, the way he set up the game, and of course looking ahead to Eintracht Frankfurt, which to be fair, feels like a long time away at the moment ahead of Tuesday. Joining us on the show, as you can see, we've got pretty much full panel here. To our right, we've got Jason McGovern back. Jace, difficult day. How are you?
Difficult day, and it's almost, I missed Jamie Brown's transfer stories today. It's about the only thing to improve the day. But no, tough day. We have to take that one on the chin, and we'll get into it in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Joining Jason, of course, as I said, really great panel joining us here tonight. We've got Mr. Cracknell having fun over for the game. Cracks. Difficult day.
You are, man alive. I see, Rick, that you've put us in a good-looking order, but I don't know which way you're running it, whether it starts that end or that end. So, yeah, difficult day. I'm sure we'll get well into it. So, but we've been looked after very nicely today by the people at Beavertown. So that has taken the edge off of it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, alongside Jay's Crackers, we've got the wonderful Frankie Major back. He says we haven't done a North London derby show. Here, Frank, here's your first one. How you doing?
Yes, a difficult one to do the first North London derby show with Last Word on Spurs, but echoing what these gents have said, it was very difficult to take today. Obviously, we will get into it. Obviously, in my opinion, our most difficult game of the season has been historically, and obviously tough to take, but nothing's changed really with what's happened over the last 10 or so years. So unfortunately, it was to be expected, but still very disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, he is normally reformed as the crazy train runner, the instructor, the driver. Where was our driver instructor today? Lee McQueen.
I'm here with you.
Yeah, but where was our driver on the field? Oh.
Yeah, there was nothing. Obviously, it's great to be back with everybody, and obviously, Crackers. Yes, it's definitely this side of the table. It's going from the good-looking side. Yeah, look, it's a tough one to take, but it's been a tough one last season, and the season before, and the season before, and the season before, as Frank just mentioned there. You know, it's about time that we changed that result at the Emirates, but we didn't do it today. Fair play to them. That hurts to say that, but they were miles better than us in lots of different areas. I thought we played pretty well. I'm sure we'll get into it in the first half. Second half, we just self-imploded. And the biggest worry for me is that we continue to self-implode in certain matches, in certain areas, and our big players don't step up. In actual fact, they step back. And that was a key point for me today, is that we were all stepping back. We need 15, 20 yards further up the pitch and have a go. And we're just not doing that. So great to be here. Beavertown, fantastic today. But the result was absolutely woeful.
Yeah, it really was. Bringing you in, and listen, you've done some difficult Last Word on Spurs shows throughout this last 18 months or so. This is going to probably be up there amongst them, because today, which we're going to get into, lots of debate, lots of talk in terms of Conte's tactics, the way he set us up generally, and the way Spurs obviously were trying to impose a style on the game where I know many will feel, and we'll get into it, whether this is sustainable moving forward. But it's going to be a difficult show to do, bearing in mind the result and the magnitude of that performance.
Yeah, I mean, it's just coming off what the lads said. You know, it's always horrible to play them at the best of times. 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday at the Emirates never works. So I'm looking forward to getting our teeth into it, because there's a lot to be said, I tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, as the boys have said here, we're absolutely delighted to be live from you at Beavertown Brewery. Of course, it was all set up to hopefully be on the back of a win or a great point, but it isn't, unfortunately, meant to be for Spurs today. But I say we're delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That is the Beavertown bang opposite your South Stand, where we're recording live for you this evening. Of course, we're obviously excited to be doing, hopefully this is one of many live shows coming your way. Hopefully next time we've got a great audience inside the venue with us for the next time this comes around, hopefully around Christmas time. But just a reminder, I know you won't feel like it at the moment. Obviously, there's many Spurs games coming up in terms of that home when away. And next for Spurs, of course, is Brighton a week at a time. As me and Costa have already said, new manager bounce coming our way. No concerns about that. And yeah, going to be difficult there. But Brighton, still tickets available. You can get yours by going to beavertownbrewery.co.uk/pages/corner-pin. And just a reminder, if you're listening to us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, across all major audio platforms. And we're, of course, live on YouTube, bringing you instant reaction, post-match analysis.
Don't forget Mumsnet, Rick.
Yeah,
Or
can't forget
Mumsnet as
Mumsnet.
well.
You can pretty much find us on anything these days, bearing in mind, in the most politest way. But boys, let's get into it. Listen, do you know what? Let's start with you, Jace. I mean, you did have the fortune of having to watch it with us. You came 4 hours after, which and there was a. Do you know what? Let's do it very quickly. There was a little bit of a story going around here that these boys have got nicked and they weren't able to make the show. But Jace came in, couldn't believe it. They unfortunately were here for it. Thanks, Antony, Costa, for that. But generally, Jace, in terms of the game, Arsenal much better than Spurs on the day, deservedly taking the points. And as we've always said about Tottenham, when it comes to the Emirates, we seem to always be the architects of our own downfall. Emerson Royale, whatever you think about his performance, the red card, the amount of times I watched that back on replay, for me, it's still debatable. But to do what he done in that moment gives the referee a needed decision to make. But we really show some real strength now. We've got a huge amount of games coming our way. Thoughts overall on the game itself?
Well, going into it, I just get the impression that it's become a real home fixture. When I look back, even close games there, they've battered us in. Close games here, when Lacazette scored first, we've actually battered them in. And I was saying to Frankie, I think it's about 2010 when we won there, and they'd had the 3-3 draw at White Hart Lane, where they've genuinely been end-to-end games that either side looked like winning. I know Thomas Rosicky, I think, scored a winner here, but that was in the first minute, and for 90 minutes we battered them after that, but couldn't get the goal. So they've just become incredibly home fixtures. I thought today, going into the game, I was worried, I must admit. I just thought, because of those reasons, first 20 minutes, I'm looking at it thinking this could get really nasty, and then Partey scored, and it almost felt overdue when they scored. But I thought we reacted quite well to the game at that point, and then for the next 20 minutes, I felt like our equaliser was overdue and I could see us scoring more goals. So at half-time, I perhaps felt a little bit more confident at half-time than I did going into it. Second half starts straight away. We immediately get another break where Romero goes through. One little ball across the box, we're 2-1 up. Instead, we self-implode at that point. And I think that's the frustration, that yet again we've self-imploded. But 2-1, you think, okay, there's still something to get from the game. But the sending off just then gives you you're uphill then, aren't you?
Killed us, didn't it?
All I would say with the sending, I had no problem with the sending off whatsoever. Number one, it's why make a foul? Why even pull a shirt?
Why need to?
He's got the player where he wants him. He's facing his own goal. He's on the touchline going. No, there's no need to even pull a shirt there and let them under pressure. But to make the foul he did, I know people think it's a soft red, but he's nowhere near the ball and he's caught him with his studs.
Yeah.
And if Granit Xhaka does that to Heung-min Son, we're demanding a red card. So I had no problem with him being sent off for it. But from that moment on, I think we kind of then chucked. I thought the 5 subs or the 4 subs was a sign that there's a more important game for us now Tuesday than the rest of the game today. And we kind of just took one on the chin at that point and went for damage limitation.
See, I will come on to that, because for me, I can just speak now openly about that. I was so frustrated with that substitution decision from Conte. And we're going to come on to that. I think the first half of the show will probably be dedicated towards the tactics, the setup, and then Conte's decision.
You were very frustrated, weren't you, Rick, on them
How
subs?
angry was I?
You were very angry.
I could not stop. I was so frustrated by it. Cracks.
Ricky, you nearly swore. You nearly swore. You're like Kathy Bates in Misery, aren't you? He's a cockadoodie, isn't you? And you actually nearly swore when you saw all them subs.
He was certainly a misery, that's for sure.
Oh, honestly, I was. Cracks, let's come over to you, because a few of those Spurs players, we touched upon it, they just looked absolutely knackered, like they were still actually on an international break. We started off pretty slow. Arsenal sharp and really bang on it from minute 1. And I just think, again, you look at that second goal, it's so disappointing from a Spurs perspective, just the manner of how we gave it away. And the crazy thing is, I said this to Frankie at half-time, we actually looked the side at half-time to go on and win it. So to then try and comprehend losing it and the fashion we lost it, I mean...
going into the break, we was all like, oh, that'll do. And we was towels up and we looked like we carry on, come out second half, do that again. And like, we will nick one here. We will get another one, or we'll hold our own at least, at the very least. And I don't know, just half-time done us absolutely no favours. But all the way through the first half, we was all saying these little individual mistakes, these silly
Always.
little back heels that somebody tries, or
Like some
a
tricks
little
sometimes, isn't
flicks
it?
and
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And they don't come off, and all of a sudden, a team like Arsenal will turn you over very quickly, 4 or 5 seconds off of a silly mistake. It's those silly little mistakes that you've got to knock out. Tactically, we looked okay because, you know, as you say, first 20 minutes, we weathered the storm. They got one, you know, the party's goal. I mean, he's hit an absolute worldie. Whether he ever hits another one like that again, who knows? But we haven't closed him down. So it's just that little switch off. And I think it's coming to a point now with Spurs. He's set us up okay for today's game. Overall, in this season, no one's been really that excited by the football, but it's been effective. So, you know, if those players out there can't do it and can't knock those individual mistakes out, then we have to replace them. It's as simple as that. I think a lot of the blame lies with the players today. There was a lot of mistakes that they made. There was tactical issues, sure. The substitutions, I'm with you, Rick. I know he's looked at a bigger picture. He doesn't look at games like we do as fans. But
25 minutes to go, though.
70 minutes.
North London Derby,
to-
25 minutes to go.
London
25 minutes to go.
It's our biggest game of the
Of
season.
course it is.
Yeah.
You just don't give up
For
the
anyone that's
Derby.
there, for anyone that's there today, boys,
Yeah.
and you've spent upwards of 250 quid a ticket, and then you see the 4 subs go on
Exactly
with 25
that.
minutes to go
Exactly
at
that.
the Emirates in a game where if
Damage
you
limitation,
score
Rick.
with 10 minutes to go, the game's still alive, even with 10 men.
I don't think the
that
4
hurt.
subs is the problem. The problem is with Richarlison and Son off.
We'll come on to it. We'll touch
That's
upon
more
it.
the problem.
Yeah.
You could have made 4 subs but
Yeah.
kept them on.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone would have been too argumentative. But
Mm.
to take both of them off and just leave Kane with no pace.
Yeah.
I'd have sooner taken Kane off and left one of those 2 on, so at least there was some pace to get you up the pitch. But
if we
wasn't
go
sweet.
on now, I know you're coming over for Frankie,
No,
but if we go on now to win the next 7, 8, 9 games and then you look back on this and you think, okay, so we lost this game. It is our biggest game of the season. It hurts right now.
Yep.
But if we go on a run now, like we have, that's the first game we've lost all season. That's the first away game we've lost since March the 12th. And if we go on another run like that, do you then look at that and say, actually, maybe that decision of bringing them substitutes on at that point maybe saved Son or Richarlison's legs for Frankfurt in 2 days, 3 days' time, and then Brighton away. So it's a difficult one, and that's obviously what he's trying to do, isn't it?
Lee, listen, we'll come to you, then we'll go to Frank and Anne. I mean, the feeling is that was, for me, a humiliating last 20 minutes that we had to somehow have to get through, because there was a feeling, I think, with Conte's acceptance that, as you said there, we weren't going to get back into that game. You know, the changes were made with the view of what's coming our way with the next 8 or 9 fixtures. Yeah. And the thing is, Arsenal were good, but it's the individual mistakes that the boys have touched upon. Lloris, Royale, and they've thrown us away in a really good position in that game. It's like you said, the first league defeat of the season since April. You know, in hindsight, you maybe argue, should we have gone to a 3-5-2? Again, everyone was clamouring. Ant was clamouring for Basuma to start the game, beef it up, put 5 in midfield. But as a performance, as a 90-minute performance, that's nowhere near the grade, is it?
No, absolutely not. I agree. It's not, and I think a lot of it, when we're watching the game, we was watching it together. I could see. I wanted us to push up 15 yards and 15, 20 yards. It feels like, you know, the tactic feels like that we're wanting teams to come onto us, which is fine if that's your tactic, and then getting the best out of the front three, as we was talking about off air. But actually, you know, I always think that we're more effective when Kane and Son are a bit closer together. You know, we're maybe playing in more of as a 2, and actually, I just think that, you know, what happened, like, come back to the point you made, Jace, like, you know, it feels like each home game is works for the, you know, Tottenham and with the Arsenal. And when we battered them and actually ruined them last season at home, that's what they've just done to us essentially today. It's like literally reverse, sending off. We've had another person sent off, etc. I just think that he knew that we're not going to get back in that game at 3-1 down with 10 men, and therefore he's thought, right, what can I do differently for the next few fixtures? And only time will tell. But like you said, and like Frank, you said, it is the biggest game of our season, and we don't want to be throwing that away. But the damage is already done. I mean, Lloris, I love him, but it's a calamitous scenario between him and Romero, wasn't it?
We're going to come on to that with Lloris, because again, there's some real big stats out of Lloris in terms of the big games. Frankie, let's come to you, then we'll go to Anne. I mean, there's a real confliction of views today that Is it based on the individual errors, or is it based on the way Conte has set Spurs up tactically, and then in-game the way he's managed that? Again, there's been clamorings, and has said it, and I've said it throughout the season, the timing of substitutions, the manner of how late they've become and the changes he's making. Are they good enough for where we want Spurs to go? And again, people will maybe ask the question, are we right to question Conte? The guy's won everything there is to win. But where do you feel the blame lies today?
Well, I think it's unfair to criticise Conte too much, because ultimately the preparation was against us from the point of view that Son and Romero had been halfway around the world on international duty and obviously come back quite late. Kulusevski, who's a key player for us, is a big, big loss today. We had lots of pockets of space on the right-hand side in behind Zinchenko. And unfortunately, Richarlison got into those positions, but he didn't make the most of them. I mean, that's not his natural game. He plays from the left or he plays through the middle. So Kulusevski is perfect for that role for us. So that's a big loss. You look at Arsenal, the 3 Brazilian lads stayed at home. Ben White stayed at home. Odegaard and Zinchenko were pulled out of international duty. Didn't travel. Thomas Partey came home early. So that was up against us with the preparation. And some of those players look like they've been on international duty for Tottenham. I'm not going to blame the tactics, because in the first half they worked. I think at half-time, Conte would have been the happier of the two managers. We finished the first half strongly. I thought we were playing some fantastic stuff. Obviously, the first 20 minutes, we were on the back foot. We had to soak the pressure up, but we did what we had to do. And the amount of times we got 3-on-3 against their back three with Zinchenko high up the pitch, and got into so many dangerous positions. And Sonny and Richarlison, either, I think, on 4 or 5 occasions, overhit the pass. The ball would go behind Perisic or just in front of him. And we didn't make the most of those opportunities. And so I find it hard to blame the tactics. Now, when your captain and leader throws one in like that to Jesus, and it's not his first time, is it, in one of these bigger games, how can you blame Conte when you're 1-1? Again, they did start the second half pretty strongly, and your captain does that, and then your right back does exactly what Emerson Royale done. How can you blame the manager? I mean, you can have every system, you can have the best system in the world. Okay, tactically you can get it spot on, but again, if your captain pulls a clanger or throws a clanger at the feet of Jesus, and your right wing back does something ridiculous, where they're in their own final third of the pitch, going away from our goal. He's passing the ball back to the edge of their box, and he throws himself in with his studs up. How can you blame the manager for that?
Right.
Now you can say the manager picked him. I get that. And the clamour has been for Royale to be dropped. I think the fan base are pretty unanimous in not wanting to see him start football matches. So, okay, there's a criticism.
He won't be now for 3 games, will he?
There you go. That is one thing that you could obviously...
Mic drop.
But that's one thing that you could criticise Conte for. But tactically, no. I don't think so. I think it's individual errors today, and it's the same story at the Emirates.
Frank, I just want to touch on something you just said, right? And it's something that's been bothering me throughout the whole season. Finished the first half strong. Second half, we start slow. And that's been the story of Tottenham throughout this whole season, isn't it?
But can I just say, that ball that came played into Romero, we got at them. There were opportunities there to get them behind. There were gaps.
100%.
When your keeper and your captain and your leader does that on the 51st minute, 6 minutes in the second half. Yeah. How can you blame the manager?
No. I'm just saying, in terms of us as a team, we always start slow. We've said this on all the shows over the past this season.
That's fair.
Yeah, do you know? I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just picking up something that you said. We finished the first half strong. We start the second half passive. If you're finishing something strong, you got to come out straight away,
carry on.
Yeah, no, we didn't carry the momentum through to the beginning of the second half.
That momentum, and that is a worry for me, because the sustainability of
long term over
the season, over 38 games plus the FA Cup.
Why are we doing it though, man?
I don't know.
Why are we like lethargic and it's like slow? And this was meant to be get a Conte's pre-season under your belt. You know, we've been absolutely beasted during pre-season. We're fit. We're running through walls, and it comes out.
We're no longer at 1 or 2 games now. We're now 7, 8, 9 games in the season.
We're slow and sluggish and lethargic, and like you said,
that's when it goes. That's when
always the way.
This is when it goes. This is when it goes beyond, guys. I'm not sure if you agree here or listen, Lee. Sticking with you. I'm not sure if it goes beyond where you look at the point now and say it clearly must be a tactic the players are being asked to do, because we're doing this every game.
Well, Jason rightly said one of the tactics is to draw teams on, or draw Arsenal on today, particularly with Zinchenko, draw them onto us, and that's the time. It's risk or reward. And Jason, you said it to me.
Well,
It's the way that we get 3-on-3.
We've struggled. We struggle against teams that park the bus against us. We've seen that. We constantly talk about we don't have that creativity around the box. So the best way for us to get those 3 is space 3v3, and it invariably has worked for us. And lots of non-Tottenham fans say those 3 on the break are as destructive, whichever combination of the 3 is, they're as destructive as anyone in world football. So I'm not necessarily saying I agree with us playing that way, because you know that from the past. I want to see us on the front foot, but in the way that Conte sets up, it's designed for those 3 to have the maximum space to play in. And today, after that Thomas Partey goal, we had 4 or 5 chances on the break to play that way. The goal came from that way. We saw Richarlison put Perisic in that way. Kane had an easy. Sonny had an easy ball into Kane that he. Or was it Kane got away?
4 or 5 occasions, Chase. We made the wrong pass.
Exactly, we made the wrong pass.
Even
But
for
we were constantly in those
Richarlison
positions. In the second half, we come straight out, and it was Romero on a break. So
Richarlison won
to a
the
degree,
penalty.
that's how he plays, and we've played that way since Conte took over, and we've had a fantastic run. We go to Liverpool, play that way, get a result. We go to Man City, play that way, get a result.
Chelsea.
I'm not necessarily saying it's the right way that I want to see it, but I can see why he does it, and it's worked for us.
It's individual errors today.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what
costs us, and that's what costs us a lot of the time at the Emirates, no matter who's in charge.
Yeah,
because the stats speak for itself.
Well,
It's been
the
12
stats-
years since we last won a game, right?
So
100%.
the most interesting stats, we spoke about this earlier, at the Emirates, we've received in the Premier League since the formation of the Premier League 5 red cards, which is more than any other stadium we've been to.
Yeah.
And that is our biggest game of the season. So I'm
Says
not
a lot,
sure it's players
Yeah.
not being able to control their emotions.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but that has got to stop, because it proves that when we go there, we're not either disciplined enough or we can't handle the
lose our
occasion.
composure.
Yeah, we lose that composure.
Lose
And Emerson
composure.
Royale today, okay, we blame him. It's a terrible decision. What is he doing? But again, I've got to reference Lloris. I'm a big fan of Hugo Lloris. He's been a servant at the club for 10 years, but that is your captain, your leader. I reiterate the point, and he's done that.
But
At the North London derby, when the crowd, we'd calm the crowd in the first half. They were getting frustrated. And then you do that on 51 minutes. The second half is a completely different dynamic then.
Yeah, it's not just the individual mistakes. There's also, it's 50% that and 50% not being smart enough when we do
Streetwise, right?
make those
Streetwise on the pitch.
breaks. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just don't, we're not, there's just that little lack, like you said, a ball too long, a wrong ball, you know, somebody else is on. You've got to be smarter than that. You've got to cut the mistakes out. And when you have got your chance, you've got to execute them. You have to execute
Even
them.
is where we miss
And that's-
Kulusevski.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's a smart player who makes the
Richarlison,
right
we missed
decisions,
that.
makes the right passes when we break, and he can utilise space, arguably better than anyone in the team, barring Harry Kane.
We got the penalty, didn't we? We got the penalty through Richarlison, but that ball from Son to Richarlison was a woeful ball, wasn't it?
He made it
Well,
himself.
It was,
That's what I
it was
said.
overhit.
When we actually broke, Richarlison would have been through 1-on-1, and Sonny really got the ball stuck under his
He
feet
did,
and
yeah.
then sent him way
did.
too wide.
I just want to pick up quickly though, Rick. Before we're talking about going away to Man City, you know, we won the game 3-2, and everyone was ecstatic. You go back and watch that third goal, that Kane goal, was absolutely outstanding. I don't think anyone's worrying about that style of football, but there was energy, there was will, there was desire, but there was also made mistakes. Romero gave a penalty away in that game. Right at the death. Another game where it was another mistake. So they keep happening. You know, for me, I still want to address the lethargic. Why are we tired? Why are we not going out? Bentancur comes out in the second half against Leicester City and bang, robs the ball off somebody by high press back, scores. Where was that today? Not once did we do that today. In a North London derby, people should have been up for it. And
From minute one.
In a sense of not rash, calm, play the match, not the occasion, but you got to have it. What Arsenal done really well for me was every time they lost the ball, they tried to recover the ball really quickly. Bang, get it back. And that was we were happy just to. We said it when we were watching the game. We were happy just to be pedestrian with the football. Like, you know, just we've got the ball. Let's just happy.
I've got to come in just on that, Lee, because I was saying I must just reference the fact we've had about 50, 60 questions come into last one after the game, and there is a massive definitive split between the style of play, how Spurs are setting up generally under Conte, and then secondly about the amount of individual errors that Spurs seem to always have when they go to play either Arsenal or a big team that they mentally crumble. And, you know, I think we all thought with Conte coming in, he was going to eradicate that mentality. And to some degree he has done. Spurs, of course, won at Man City last season, towards the back end of last season, got massive results against Arsenal, of course, to get into the top 4. But it's hard to just ignore that and not delve into it because I had so many questions on it. So to kind of, like I say, bring them in before I bring in the listener questions, Antony's come round to you because I think this time around, you know, Spurs, we've lost at the Emirates and there's been the argument there hasn't been a game plan there. I think what we have to say is there clearly for this game, whether we like it or not, Conte has had a game plan going into it, and his game plan was to allow Arsenal to have the ball and for Spurs then to counter. So from that perspective, unlike Nuno last season, there was that game plan. But with this game plan, what it requires is it requires you to be absolutely perfect and not make any mistakes defensively and as a team be solid. And unfortunately, as we can see in this team, we've still got those errors there that are costing us. And so going back to the style, because we have to touch upon it, do you think long term this is going to be sustainable, this style?
No way. No way. This is why he gets paid the big bucks, right? We all love him. We all love what he done last season, blah, blah, blah. But it's a brand new season. He's had his pre-season. He's had his players come in, right, which we've all been buzzing about. Play him. Give him a chance.
Well, I think the one you're alluding to there, Ant, is definitely Basuma. Yves Basuma has been one of the best central midfielders in the Premier League for 2 seasons now.
And always against the big teams, Frank. Always plays well.
Bridge,
always
against
plays
Arsenal
well.
at the Emirates, he's been outstanding.
Yep.
And he, for me, was probably him and Richarlison. I was really excited about those 2 signings. I don't understand how we can't integrate him into the team. Now, obviously, this is sort of going against what I've just said about the tactics because there has been clamour for 3-5-2. Perhaps that was the right way to go today. But that requires more from your wing backs. And unfortunately, Emerson Royale, from an output point of view, just doesn't do it enough, does he?
No.
So there's got to be a balance there. And this is, again, why Conte gets paid what he gets paid. Because his decision now, or his decisions moving forward have to be to integrate him into the team.
But he's not looking at the other team, right? I know we've got to stick to our system. But we've got the players there to play a different system against different teams. And for me, as a supporter, I want to see us go against these big teams and play a different system.
Play the free midfield.
There is that
argument. We got overrun today. Let's have it right.
There is that argument. There is that argument, Rich. Does he actually trust the group of players that he's got still? Because I still think he looks at that bench. What's the point in signing them?
But
I still think he looks at that bench and he's still so reluctant. I know he made the 4 changes today, but let's not deny that.
There's quite a lot of changes today.
The 4 changes were enforced, though, wasn't they? I mean, he wasn't going to want to make the 4, but he made the 4 as a point to say, look, I'm now resting my players for the remainder of the next 9-10 games we've got to come in.
But we've got 25 minutes to go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it is. I mean, when we went there and got the 4-4 draw, anything can happen.
That's what I mean.
And when I see Son and Richarlison go off, there's 2 players that can all of a sudden, bang, just get you something. They get you that goal.
There's pace in behind.
Exactly.
Crackers.
And if you get one in that 5 minutes of that 25, then you've got 20 minutes. And your towels are up, you can go again.
Just one goal, wouldn't it?
Give you something. One goal. And then all of a sudden gives you something. But they're gone. They're off. They're off the pitch. So you've lost it. You've completely lost
I think that's the other argument for me as well about changing a different system. If you think about if in the back of Conte and his coaching staff's mind, they've got Frankfurt and then they've got the Brighton game and all these games we've got coming up, United and all that sort of course, all that sort of stuff. Then actually a 3-5-2 today would have been better because we've been dealt a blow with Kulusevski, and obviously Lucas Moore is not there. So the attacking options on the bench by starting that front 3, there's no one there. But actually, if you had Richarlison or Son on the bench and you played a 3-5-2, you've now got one of your powerhouses to come off the bench and change the game.
I don't like either Sonny or Richarlison off the right-hand side. They have to either play centrally or from the left.
So you could have had a scenario, couldn't you, Frank, where you have Son and Kane up front off the back of his hat-trick, rested Richarlison and got him coming on at maybe half an hour to go, 35 minutes to go, whatever, and try to change that game. Also, I am going to say, I'm sure we'll go through the players, but I really like this guy I'm about to talk about, but I thought he was non-existent today as well, and that's Perisic. And he's been brought in to be some outstanding player
in the big games.
And actually, Emerson Wells getting a lot of grief and rightly so, but they're sending off or whatever. But Perisic, I didn't think he
The poor game today. We've got to be objective here. And
Poor finish.
Can I ask you, boys? I mean, we are going to touch upon obviously the players' performances, but just before I do, I'm just going to bring in some of the listener questions here because we had over 50 again. So thank you so much as always for all your support for Last Word on Spurs, sending these in. So we'll read a few and a flavour of what we've got here. So Trash Queen says Conte needs to stop being so stubborn and keep playing the same players who can't play a good game. But what must happen to change that? Charles at Cornwall 8 says, can anyone think of one single position in which on the pitch we had the better performers against Arsenal? Alex
Great
Brown
point.
says, why, when we were so consistently failing to get anything creative from our wing backs, are we still getting overrun in midfield? Why do we continue with the same shape? So a lot of these questions based around the formation and the reluctance to change the game when it is going wrong, like you'd say mid-game. Anders Lindstrom says, why not give Spence a chance? And why didn't we start with a 3-5-2 today and close them down in the middle? David Lynch also goes on to say, look, we're outnumbered in midfield again, painful to watch, time for the change. As Ant has been alluded to, Basuma has to start next game. Paul Nando also going on to say, why did Conte not set up to match them in the midfield while our Arsenal dominate possession, and with their quality they will create so many chances? Tony Hobbs says, when will Conte realise we have to go to that 3 in the midfield against certain teams, especially away from home, where we need to control midfield and build on it? And there's so many more questions here, guys, that again
we all can see it.
Simple thing. If Nuno had done that today,
or
Mourinho had done that today, there'd have been riots. There would have been absolute
changes or the
screaming
tactics,
riots.
Crackers.
Yeah.
Well, what you're alluding to, the changes or the tactics?
Both.
Okay.
Changes and tactics. You've got to be fair, and you've got to measure Antonio against those two.
But the tactics were working up until Lloris's mistake. You can't say they weren't.
Yeah,
the sending off killed us as well.
No, but they were. I mean, that put us on the back foot immediately. The crowd are up. 51 minutes. We had a great end to the first half. We quietened the crowd, as I said. They were frustrated. You could hear the groaning on the TV once we had the sound, which is another story. But
we had masterminds to begin with.
Emirates was quiet, wasn't it?
I don't think you can blame the tactics as much as I've seen many blaming them online.
Can I ask you, Frank, let me ask you then. So the argument is, Frank, that some people may feel today that game is on Conte, taking far too long to make the subs, setting up in what some may think an awful way, and then obviously the face that now Spurs are in a position where we need to see a reaction. Now, I mean, just to answer those first couple of points, for you didn't have a problem with the way Spurs set up today.
I didn't have a problem because it worked up until half time. Now, before the game, I did want 3 in midfield because I felt that we might get overran. But we reacted so well to the first goal. Obviously, the first 15 or 20 minutes, we tried to sort of weather the storm.
Yeah.
They got the goal. It was a great goal. I think that the fact that we had 8 men in our own box was poor. Either Bentancur or Højbjerg have to be on the edge of the box there for me and put pressure on the ball and Partey. But I felt we reacted brilliantly to the goal and we started playing out. I thought Longley had a brilliant game today, as did Bentancur, barring that moment where Partey scored. But we started with the calmness under pressure after the first goal. I thought we reacted brilliantly. So you can't say the tactics weren't working at half time. And as I said earlier in the show, if you at half time, Conte would have been happier with the 2 managers. Then in the second half, I understand it was passive and tepid. Again, we turned that 1 ball in from Kane, which was unfortunately Romero who was in the position who got him behind. But up until Lloris's mistake, I felt that things were going okay. I felt we had another goal in us. I thought we were getting joy on the break. And then obviously the red card kills the game. So I find it hard to categorically blame the tactics. For me today, it's all about individual errors. And I'm going to bring this statistic up, which we spoke of, which a guy called Alan Bate posted on Twitter. Now, I understand he's been a fantastic servant for the club, Hugo Lloris. 344 Premier League games he's played for the club, which is a lot of games. And he's made 21 errors leading to goals, which isn't a lot in the context of those 344 games. However, 10 of those errors have been in 253 games against the non-other 5 Big 6 clubs. And 11 errors have been made in 91 games against the other 5 Big 6 clubs.
Pretty telling, isn't it?
More defending against the better teams. Jason said that earlier. That's obviously very apparent in that
devil
statistic.
in the detail there, isn't there? Because
he's made more errors in less games significantly against the big teams.
Like Jason said earlier, you are more under the cosh against the City, against Arsenal, against Liverpool. So you can sort of odds that off a little bit, but you know, when there is an error in his game, it's these games, isn't it? I get that he is under
games, and
you
need your captain in these big games and your leader to stand up and be counted for and set a precedent to the rest of the team and lead by example. And he's been an outstanding goalkeeper. You can't deny that. I mean, he makes some stunning saves, but in the bigger games, in the big occasions, this is a guy who's a World Cup winning captain. He does let us down. And today, that was a massive mistake he's made.
You know what? I mean, again, just to counteract that, because I think, again, a lot of people, listen, what I will say is we're always humbled by the audience size we get on Last Word on Spurs, both audio and YouTube. And thank you again so much for all the support. I think it's really hard on the back of a game like today. There's emotions running high in a North London derby that, again, some will feel today the blame is apportioned towards Conte. Some will feel the blame is apportioned towards individual areas, which we've touched upon throughout the show. I mean, Ant, there's going to be a lot of false narratives maybe created around that purely because Hugo has dropped another clanger in a massive game. There's an element where 2 minutes before they score, Romero is in their box and we could be 2-1 up. So, I mean, this is the thing, the tactics. As much as, again, there's a frustration and maybe the way in which Spurs are presenting their playing style, do you think at some degree in the game, we had an element of control to this? Because, I mean, at halftime, me and you both said we look like the team that could go on and win it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I spoke about before on the show. We finished the first half strong, start the second half passive.
Yep.
Okay, we had that little break with Romero. All right, is he the right bloke to be on the end of that? Probably not. Kulusevski's there. It's 2-1, we like to think. So it's a lot of ifs and buts. But yeah, we did okay. We had a bit of control. But the minute they scored that second goal and Lloris did that, it was game over for me.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think
I don't think it was game over at that mistake. It was a hugely costly error. I think the red card was game over.
Where could you see us coming back from that?
Yeah,
2-1 down, yeah, because we
could
did in the first half, but it was Emerson Royale that killed the game off.
I could, because I think the way Arsenal play, they weren't going to finish at 2-1. So they'll keep coming at you, which meant the
We would have
space.
opportunities on the
So
back.
it was exactly
Space
the
at
same
the
as the
back.
first half. They've
But
gone
it makes
1-0
it
up,
difficult.
but you can have that space to play in.
Yeah.
I think, some teams, if they'd have got that second goal, who then would have parked the bus against us, then it might have been a bigger problem. But I think the way that Arsenal play, they were always going to come at you. And that's the one thing I think when you play the bigger sides, hence why we could keep doing that at City last year, they'll keep coming at you. Whereas a lot of the teams, if I don't know, if Wolves come here, go 1-0 up, down comes the shutters, doesn't it? West Ham will down comes the shutters. But those bigger teams will keep coming at you. So that space is there constantly to play on the break. And I could have seen us getting back to 2-2 just as much as I could have seen the game going away from us. But the sending off, when that happened, you thought, now we're in trouble. And within a couple of minutes, you're 3-1 down. It's game over then.
But Andy's right in a way that it is a morale killer.
Yeah.
The beginning of the second
Yeah.
half. So I agree with you on that. It's so early in the second half. The crowd are up for it. It becomes a cauldron. And it makes it a lot more difficult for us to get back into the game. However, we still had an opportunity. We had 40 odd minutes.
Well, exactly. The only thing is, it's better to happen in 52 minutes than 82 minutes.
It was 49, and this is the point I was going to make. Jesus actually goals timed at 49 minutes, and Emerson Royale got sent off in 67 minutes, right? So that's what best part of
62, I think he said.
Have a look, right? It's 15 minutes, right, between them scoring their second goal and Royale getting sent off. The whole of the second half, we didn't have a shot on target.
No.
So for them, 15 minutes after they scored their second goal, we created nothing.
Yep.
When we had 11 v 11. So typically, I would agree with that. I would say typically that yes, we could get back into it. But against City, for example, using that as an example, we were still creating chances. We were still had the ball, even though they had probably 70% possession. If you go and have a look at the stats, the thing is, we were so passive in our play after that goal went in after 49 minutes that we wasn't going to create. And then, like you say, obviously the red card completely
But Lee, this
killed
is
it
what I'm
after that.
saying. There is a little bit of blame at Conte's door
100%.
because
I agree.
But they tactically tweaked to
We
try
talked
and
about tweaking,
to
didn't we?
negate us,
Yeah.
to stop us having any chances in that 15 minutes after they went 2-1 up. Now, Conte,
Xhaka dropped deeper.
he dropped,
didn't he?
he did.
Dropped
He
in front
dropped
of the back
about
foot.
10, 15
Spot on.
yards, and which meant, but Conte should see that and tweak us slightly, or make one change, or pull someone about. So there is some blame. Don't get me wrong; it's probably a 75% player errors, 25% Conte errors. But he's not. Once we've gone 2-1 down, like Lee's just said, we ain't had a sniff. Until and then off goes
Emerson
Royale.
Royale. I mean, in the first half, it was different to that, wasn't it?
He's not seen in that 15 minutes to go, oh, hang on,
Let's have a
Jack has
tweak it up.
dropped. Right, you go there, you go there.
And in the
that's
first
not
half-
working. Him off, you on.
And
He's
in the
not seen
first
it.
half, when we went 1-0 down, as Jay said earlier, we did respond. I think we all agreed that we responded really well to going 1-0 down. in the first half, and obviously we got back into the game. Second half, we didn't do that in that 15 minutes. And then, of course, Well gets sent off. And then it's virtually, I mean, I think it was 62 minutes and they scored on 67th, or 64th. Or something. It was literally straight after and it was just done. It was just done.
I think with Conte, he'll feel hard done by from the sense that the tactics in the first half, again, if we had played that final ball or made a better final decision when we were 3-on-3, it could have been a
3-1 up, 3-1 up, 4-1 up, and everyone's saying
we had, again, if
masterclass.
You take those moments and you make the right decision, then possibly, I mean, we didn't get one good cross into Harry Kane today, did we?
No, we should be sitting here going, a masterclass, a 3-1 win, a 4-1 win. But as I said, it's been 12 years.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been
how many different players? How many managers?
It's all the same. The rhythm.
And I was saying to you earlier in the lads, I was saying the most difficult thing to take is I felt it might be different this time because we've got Conte, who's a genuine world-class manager in his prime, in my opinion. We've got maybe the best squad depth that we've had in quite a few years now, in my opinion, with the additions that we've made this summer. And I felt possibly this might be our chance to change.
That's why it hurts a bit more, doesn't it?
The same outcome,
same stuff
under Nuno last year, exactly the same result.
So then maybe that squad depth is something that needs to be looked at, because if it's different managers, different players, but not enough depth to change it up or bring those players in, maybe there is an argument that the club do need to just push that boat a little bit further.
Definitely.
And, instead of a Royal, go and spend another 50, 60 million pounds. Exactly. Yeah. And instead of a Højbjerg, who I don't mind, he does a job, but is there somebody else there?
Basuma.
Exactly, a Basuma. But you know what I'm saying? There's one or two there where you're going, I'm not quite sure if you're really the answer to really push on. And you've got to go and spend the money. Yeah. And it's not like we haven't got it, Rick, either.
No, but I think it's again, it's the argument. Again, it always goes, I do feel like whenever Spurs do suffer a defeat, we then always go back to, again, what we did in the transfer windows. It's always the way, isn't it? But I feel like, whatever happens, a defeat always links us back to what it was.
It was Levy's fault today.
I feel like always with Tottenham, with a window. And again, I don't want to go too much on this. Again, the game it's never to do with the transfer window today, or to some it might be to do with the transfer window, because there's that argument always with Spurs that we never really do enough. We always do
one or two short.
One or two.
We're definitely too short.
The elite.
Kulu's out for 4 to 6 weeks.
We've got a natural left-footed player who's of that level. Who's coming for Kulusevski and repeat his position.
He brought on 7 defenders.
He's left-footed.
That is
we brought on 5.
Tottenham always one or two short. My dad will tell you from the early 70s, late 60s.
Can I just say that though?
One or two short. One or two short. 87, 1 or 2 short.
So I agree with you, right? I agree with you, the 1 and 2 short. I definitely think we're too short. But just to bring some balance, if Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne got injured tomorrow, that's a massive blow. But then I'm not saying they haven't got a cover, and they are they've got.
There's a massive drop in standard if either of them get injured.
That's what I'm saying. So, and the reality of the situation is, come back to my point earlier about 3-5-2. If you start a 3-5-2 today, you've got either a Son or a Richarlison on the bench. To come off. And if and they aren't, Lucas and Kulusevski are fit, which hopefully they are, all of a sudden off the bench, you've got Lucas, Kulusevski or Richarlison. That's not a bad depth in squad, is it?
But all I mean by having the 3 up front, and we're saying that we had really good opportunities to put ourselves 3-1 up.
Yeah.
You think, why wouldn't you want to go there and be 3-1 up at half time than being at 1-1 at half time with somebody to come off the bench in the 70th minute?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
If we do the business from the first minute and take some of the which the ball.
Do.
Yeah, then you're 3-1 up, and then nobody's moaning.
No, I agree.
Exactly.
What I will just bring it into, guys, I say again, we had so many listener questions here. We'll just probably finish on this one, but again, shout outs to Sperano, Nick Flanagan, Chris Phelps, Michael Irons, Alvo Spurs, Jay Stites. They've all sent in questions to us. Michael Irons asked, "Is this the moment where Conte changes the formation as he did at Chelsea?" Which I think Lee, you referenced to.
Have a look at the Twitter,
like I say, was it 6 years ago to the day Conte changed that formation and led Chelsea to their first title? Well, first title for him, obviously, for the Italian. But what we will just do is we are just going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. For our watching audience on YouTube, we've got a good 500 of you plus joining us live on a Saturday evening, where hopefully we're bringing you some therapy on the back of a real real hard day at the Emirates. How many times have we said that over the last?
Shout out to Jamie Brand because he keeps texting me.
7 years on the bounce, a hard day at the Emirates. How many more times are you going to keep saying this?
All the time.
Who we
mate.
signing?
And Rick,
Who we signing?
a big shout out to the staff downstairs.
Yeah,
I'm
lovely.
nearly
Staff
out.
with old
I'm
Beavers.
nearly out of
But
beer.
it is the same
Just
old
saying,
story.
staff
Rick. It's the
downstairs.
same old story.
I think it is time to bring them in. Of course, listen, everyone will know by now. They were absolutely delighted to be sponsored also by NordVPN.
Go on, then.
Now, I joked
Go
with you a
on then,
couple of
Nord.
weeks ago, and I said to you that
Nordy,
with Spurs
Nordy.
in Europe, you are going to need them. Again, I joked and said to you that I didn't tell you what competition will be in come the end of it, whether that's Europa League or Champions League. Now, of course, with Nord, you've got the opportunity, obviously, when you're traveling around Europe, obviously, we've got Frankfurt to come. If you're going over to Frankfurt, you can still watch all your lovely favourites that you want to watch in the UK, whether that's EastEnders, Married at First Sight, Love Island, you know it. You can
Come on,
find
you
it.
love a bit of
And
Love
like I say,
Island, Rick.
Sky Sports News, yeah. Find out who we're not signing come
Volleyball?
January.
Watch a volleyball on that?
Watch the volleyball on
The
that. You
apprentice-
certainly
get the
can.
apprentice on there, son?
You can get
Cricket,
the apprentice on
Jason,
there.
yeah.
You can. So for our watching audience, of course, you can get yourself a live discount right now, which we can share with you on the screen here. You can grab that exclusive discount by going to nordvpn.com/LWOS. Right, guys, it is time to continue the inquest, as painful as this is. What we will just do is we are just going to bring up the lineup from today. And like I say, go into that. So Antonio Conte making 3 changes for our latest Premier League North London derby at Arsenal. Hugo Lloris was past fit following a small thigh injury that prevented him from playing for France. Of course, we know Ben Davies still out, as is Lucas Moura, unsure in terms of timescale when they'll be back to play. Dejan Kulusevski missing out with a tight hamstring. Conte did say in his pre-match interview to BT Sport that he's going to need an MRI scan on that in order to discover how long the extent of that problem was. I know, Frankie, you suggested
I
earlier.
think that could be 4 to 6 weeks, unfortunately,
Oh, no.
which potentially could put him out until the World Cup.
Yay.
Blimey.
Which
Yeah,
he's not
fair.
going to, by the way. He's
He's
obviously,
a man.
Sweden didn't qualify, but we, in my opinion, it's a huge loss.
It's a massive loss, Frankie, and it is
Huge one.
absolutely
It is.
massive.
Yeah.
He's been a
But
sensation.
I think again today, boys, and I'm sure we're going to jump in. I mean, Jace, listen, I think today highlighted again just how important Kulusevski is to the team. In that first half, I think he does bring you that balance. And we touched upon this during the actual game, watching it, that we're going to desperately miss him now for the period that he is out. And, you know, this is no disrespect. Richarlison made the penalty today. No doubt about that. It was a woeful ball from Son. But there's no doubt, you know, Kulusevski holds up the ball, carries it so well, the delivery as well. It's going to be a massive miss for Tottenham if he's out.
Of course he is. I think the one thing that he brings is decision making is usually spot on. That's the key. And he has that composure when he needs to make the decision, and it's invariably the right decision all the time.
So strong as well, isn't he,
it's-
Jason?
Yeah,
Very
it's
strong.
he's a big loss. And because also the fact, as you say, with the bench today, Brian Hill's on the bench rather than being able to bring on one of those 4. Lucas Moura, to a degree, is a big miss in that as well, because he's your 5th one, and we're missing Lucas Moura as well. So Brian Hill was your 6th choice, if you like. So it would have been nice to at least bring Lucas Moura to run at someone on today to change it or something. But yeah, Kulusevski's a big miss for us.
He looks after the ball when we get up the
Big
pitch
time.
as well. As Jason said, 9 times out of 10, he picks the right pass.
Yeah.
He's brilliant at cutting in and putting those crosses into Kane, which
Yeah.
we didn't really get today, did we? Or make them.
That assist against Leicester, Frankie, was amazing, wasn't it? It pinged that
It's
left
a
foot.
huge loss, and this is why I go back to preparation. If you look at the difference in preparation for both teams, now it's not an excuse, it's just a fact that they had far greater preparation over the last week than we did. And that made it a lot more difficult, in my opinion.
You know what, boys, like I say, in terms of the additional team news, that Emerson Royale, I'm sure you won't need reminding, obviously returning that right wing back with Perisic, switching to the left-hand side. Christian Romero returning to a back three with Davinson Sanchez on the bench. And then obviously Brian Hill, we have to say, was the only attacking player amongst our subs. So Team Red, Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Longley, Emerson, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Perisic, Richarlison, Kane, Son, with that bench of Forster, Sanchez, Doherty, Sessegnon, Spence, Sarr, Skip, Basuma, Hill. Let's come to Lee. I mean, Lee, there's been an argument that, you know, ultimately that team would have definitely, I think, how can I put this, would definitely kind of have frustrated people to some degree because there's no Basuma in there. We haven't gone with 5 in midfield, which was
We
being
predicted that,
speculated
though,
on.
didn't
Conte actually hinted at a 5 in midfield during his pre-match press conference. Therefore,
Yeah.
was you shocked by that team?
Well, we predicted that exact team, didn't we, in the show in the week with Ali Gold, because we thought that's what Conte would do, and ultimately that's what Conte did do. I think, like you say, Lee, there was a bit of a frustrated feeling. I think, you know, we knew that we were going to lose. We knew that we were going to lose. But I think, you know, Again, I go back to what we talked about before. I think Frank's spot on. Tactically, up in the first half, certainly it was working. But I would have pre-game, I would have thought that he would have gone a 3-5-2. I think that we need to have an extra body in that midfield that enables us to almost unleash somebody else to get forward. From
Even Bentancur can
that's what I mean, like
go
a
from there to
Bentancur.
there.
Lee,
Exactly.
is Conte a little bit too predictable?
Conte.
Or
Stubborn, Robbie.
predictable?
Well, we saw.
Do you allow other teams to prepare because
we
he's
know
not going
what
to throw
we're
us a
going to do type thing.
curveball
Yeah.
on at 11:30 today by doing this. So it's sometimes if you're too predictable, you can,
It's difficult, isn't it? Because
train all week to cope with what you know's coming.
Generally, like I say, boys. I mean, if we're being honest about it, since Conte's come to the club, I mean, you'd be able to name 7 out of the 11 really when you don't start the game.
I mean, that team's unbeaten all season, right?
I get the impression
today, that team's unbeaten all season, isn't it?
No,
So it's
listen,
tough.
I'll take a little bit of issue with that because I think we've been getting away with it. I really do. I know we've been unbeaten, but there's some games where we really got out of jail. Well, when I went West Ham away, we were lucky not to get beat in the final minute of that. It's been a few games against Leicester. At half time, we could have been 5-2 down. It could have been 5-3. We got out of jail first half, second half. So there's been a good few games where we don't feel
like we're in control.
We've been riding our luck. I know this is where I take issue with stats. I mean, I'm a bit of an old dinosaur like that. You can throw up.
We'll bring them up. We'll bring them up from today's game.
Love a stat.
Exactly. You can bring the stats up, but
they're woeful.
Within games, even when we've got a result, like the Chelsea game away, there's no way we shouldn't have drawn that. So we have, but lucky. We have a bit, honestly, we've been like Kylie Malone.
I kind of think we were
it's nuts.
We were better today than we were at Chelsea.
No, I agree.
We were better today. I think the 3-5-2. I think the problem with 3-5-2 for us is that you have got to get real quality then from your 2 wing backs if you're going to go with just 2 up front. And I think he's looking at it thinking we're not getting the quality we need consistently from be it Sessegnon's side or Perisic today didn't give it to us. You certainly don't get it from the right side. So he wants the 3 up front where you get that little bit more quality with the 3 of them, particularly if it's Kulusevski there. And that's why he's doing it. You drop off to just 2 and you get no quality from the wing backs. Those front 2 start to get isolated because there's not enough people going forward.
Just on the stats today, just to kind of, again, this is for listeners and audio, Arsenal 22 shots to Spurs' 7. That's in terms of generally, and then 9 shots on target from
9
Arsenal.
on target,
3.
Rick, that is terrible. You can't concede 9 shots against your own goal on the target.
For shots conceded on target.
I need to.
I'd like to look at what it was at 60 minutes.
But like I say, fouls committed 10
barometer
aside.
of how we play.
Again, but the possession, boys, at North London derby, 65% for Arsenal, 35% for Tottenham. No offense, that was under Nuno. I mean, or Mourinho, he could be getting battered.
But a little bit out of skewed also with 10 men and you're letting them
10 men
to
for
not
half an hour.
They had 4 shots. They had 4 shots on target in the first half. Arsenal. So
4 shots on target in the first half. And Tottenham at half time was what? 3 shots
we
on
had 3.
target?
We didn't have a shot on
So
target.
there you go.
The
difference at half time was 1 shot.
Yeah, and then in the second half, obviously they've had 5 shots on target. But here's an interesting stat that we don't sometimes put in a graphic. Block shots for me is also really important. Across the whole match, they had 4 block shots. And that is basically a shot that's going in that we've obviously blocked. That's another. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you get me though?
I love
you love a stats in it. But this is on the blue.
What was the XG?
Fresh. I don't know.
I'll bring it up in a
I
second.
thought the
Yeah.
XG was interesting because the XG was like 2.01 for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And like 1.4 or something for us. And I
thought
that
Block Shop was a clothing shop up in Oxford Street, isn't it? Block Shop.
it could be.
But there you go, 2.2.16
Can I just
for
quickly
Arsenal.
Go back to Jason's point
1.39.
about the tactics.
Yep.
Do you think playing a 3-man midfield would help and aid Perisic? Because he'd have more freedom to not have to track back as much because he'd get more cover.
Maybe, but like I say, I think the way we want to do it is to isolate 3v3. That's it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I want to see us play that way, but that's the way he sees it. Those front 3 running at their 3 at the back. And as you said, there was plenty of space in behind Zinchenko today, which the third person would have given us more chance to exploit. So it's risk reward. We've gone to Chelsea, got a result. We've gone to Liverpool, got a result. We've gone to Manchester City, got a result. We went to Man United, it needed a Cristiano Ronaldo hat-trick to beat us.
Yep.
So he'll look at that and think we've lost 1 away game since March. We're unbeaten this season. So it's not actually cost us that much. Performance-wise, we're worried because we are getting overrun in midfield. I think there's a different problem in that also, in that I look at Kane, and I kept saying it in the group in midweek when you see him play for England, because of his fitness issues, he can't press.
Yep.
There's no surprise for me to see that Tottenham have won the ball in the final third less than any other Premier League team. A high press, and Kane himself said in the week, I've learnt to manage my fitness. You don't see him chase lost cause balls. You don't see him really go and close people down because of the injury problems he's got. And that is often, and you certainly see it for England, it allows centre-halves to wander past him and they go into midfield. So even when we've had 3v3, it often becomes 4v3 in there. And Kane's lack of pressing is a big problem for us in midfield. Now, I'm not saying you leave Kane out or that he's a problem to the club overall, but that lack of mobility is also costing us a little bit.
You drop him in, maybe, because I said today I was quite surprised. Prior to the game, I felt from the front three, Kane would be behind Richarlison and Son, because that would enable them to press.
It's like a 3-4-1-2.
So maybe and he was the furthest man up the pitch.
Yeah, and I think physically as well with Kane at the moment, he doesn't win that many balls in the air to what he used to do, because maybe the ankle, you don't get the spring. He hasn't got the physicality anymore, and so he's tending to arrive that little bit later in the box where he's not up against. He used to be able to bully people. 2015 to 2019, he could bully centre-halves. He doesn't, because of physically, he doesn't really bully him. There's a lot of games we look at him here and think he's actually been quiet in the game, but then he arrives that fraction later where he's not up against the two centre-halves, scores a goal, and we all think, great, he's still the player.
So do we start him slightly deeper, Jace? Possibly.
I think you have to. He's no longer the focal point number 9.
Which means we need another number 9.
And it clearly, obviously, we've seen today, there's been that argument. Conte said Kane cannot play every game. And obviously, he brings Son off today. Kane keeps on.
Kane stays.
And Richarlison
Kane played well today. I thought the touch for leading up to the penalty was a fantastic touch.
Yeah.
The ball to Romero, I thought.
But I think the argument, though, Frankie, is that, we take Son off. And I'm not saying Son had a great game today. He didn't. But we didn't lose any pace that we've got up front. So almost it was like an acceptance today that we're not going to get back into that game. Yeah. And we're safe.
Not an out ball, Ricky, have we?
No. Listen, let's talk about, as painful as it is, let's talk about the opening goal out. Let's come around to you. Arsenal taking the lead. Thomas Partey curling that it shot in. I mean, we said it's just typical, isn't it? A worldie like that. But I mean, there is that argument that maybe should he have been closed down, or do you just take your hat off?
Should have been closed down. Frank kept shouting it. Close them down, close them down, close them down. And we didn't. Gave him too much space. Gave him 10, 15 yards. So he had a beautiful eye line on a goal. He just done what he did. And it was a worldie. Listen, you can't deny that.
And that's 10, 15 yards all around. They picked this up at the half-time analysis. And they put a circle around Partey, and it was 15,
we had 8
yards.
players in our own box.
All right, 8 players. Someone's got to come out.
Gets the ball.
Someone's got to see that. Someone's got to see it.
You take a yellow if need be. Do something. Block the shot.
Do something.
That's the frustration, isn't it? In a game like this, don't give the players amount of space, Frankie. An opportunity like that, the guy's got a wand of a foot and does that. You have to think to yourself, it's a great goal, but at the same time, we've got to be doing more than we to close them down.
We've played a back 3, so if we're playing a back 3, 2 central midfielders should not be that deep and in the same line, essentially, as the back 3, which was a back 5, in fact, because the wing backs are all in the box as well. So it's up to Højbjerg or Bentancur to be in that position.
At least one of them shouldn't be that deep, Frank.
One of them has to go out and engage.
One of them's got to go.
And press.
One stays, one goes.
Exactly.
Yeah. You've got enough cover behind you. One of you goes.
Got five others in the box.
Let's talk about, boys, the penalty. I mean, I think, Frank, what I wanted to touch upon, actually, what you said earlier, is that you was really impressed in the way Spurs mentally recovered from going that goal behind to then find a way of coming back into a game where, let's be honest about it, the Emirates for us has been a daunting venue. We haven't always showed the ability to be able to come back. How impressed was you by the mentality of actually getting back into the game after going the goal down?
We reacted brilliantly. I felt that, unfortunately, it needed the goal to sort of kick us into gear, which isn't obviously what should have happened. We should have probably been more aggressive from the off, but I did feel that we reacted brilliantly to the goal. We started playing out under pressure, and it felt, for me, at half time, that possibly this could be a bit of a turning point at these away at the Emirates, because I felt at half time I was impressed and happy, but subsequently it didn't really matter, did it?
No.
Within the game, but it's hard to analyse now, because again, we did have a great spell the last half of the first half, but then it felt a bit worthless at the end, which is a shame, because
Yeah.
we talk about that change in mentality, the way that we were playing, reacting to that goal. And then we started the second half as we did. And it was almost like, what was the point? We'd done all that hard work just
Totally.
to
Get back into it.
implode
Totally.
so early
100%.
into the second half. And
Yeah.
that was the big, for me, the frustrating factor of the game.
Yeah.
That we played that well in that spell, and then we completely capitulated.
As I said, and when we, again, coming back to what I said, it's been like that for all the whole season.
Yeah.
It has.
Patchy.
Just,
It is.
we're starting slow today. And sitting there with
When
your
we
arms
get it
folded.
right, and it looks great, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Do you know, when we
but
do overturn play through them.
But it's
So if it's those patches, it's just patches. You've got to
Well,
you've
passages.
got to make that.
Well, he's setting up
more
though, isn't it? Like that,
consistent.
surely.
No,
Like
no,
if
it's not.
it just the way it is patchy. I do agree, and I think I'm like always look on the bright side of life and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to go into song, but you look at some of the detailed analysis on all of the games that we've had so far, and you are right. It is patchy. It does feel like that we're not in control, and it does feel like that by giving the ball to the opposition that they are in control.
Yeah,
but
If you've got the football, you can't. Do you know what I mean? If your team's got the football, you can't concede. And that, and
You can be in control without the ball.
No, you can.
I think that's
And
what he
it's-
looks at, isn't it?
But that's what he does. Exactly. That's what.
See, there is that
He
argument
feels
there. Kind
we're
of say on
in
the screen
control.
here. Like I say, that formation has got us top 4 last season.
Yeah, it's a
just
good
saying.
point.
I mean, again, it's,
and like I say, I'm not agreeing with it, but his view is that we're more dangerous on the break.
Yeah.
So therefore, we're in control when they have the ball and they're passing it from side to side, and not necessarily going anywhere for us.
Chase, what
we
do you
think one
think, though? Do you
turnover,
think
we're
we are?
away.
Do you think we're more dangerous? Like with the personnel
No,
we've got.
for me-
forget Conte for a minute, but do you think if we had the football and we were
Lee.
15 yards further up the pitch and we had the ball more than the opposition and we were putting passes around like we have done and getting it into Son and Cat, do you think we'd be more dangerous?
You know where I stand.
I
on
know,
it.
but I just
You
find
know
it
where I want to see us
interesting,
play. I mean, for me, I'd far sooner us play 4-2-3-1 football and go on the front foot and dominate the ball and things and have a creative number 10, if you like we used to have with Son wide one way, Kulusevski wide the other, Kane, Richarlison up. I'd love to see us do that. But that's how I'd want to see us play. But that's not how he's going to do it. And we've lauded Conte for coming in, for the winning mentality, for this, that, and the third thing. And that's the way he
Does
plays.
it feel like Jose
So
to you?
it feels to me like, what's the point of lauding him and saying we got Conte, a world-class manager, to then say to him, I know that's how you've won 5 titles.
can you change it for us, please?
that because
Yeah.
we're here?
Yeah.
He's not going to do it.
No, I know.
but
And
can't,
the same
but
way as
can't we,
Mourinho wasn't going to do it.
No.
can't
I
we
know.
change formations for different teams?
Well, he
Just-
did it
just
Inter.
see what
He
I'm
did it
saying?
Inter, didn't he? Yeah.
He
He
used
used
to-
different
Exactly,
formations at Inter. It was 4-3-3, 3-5-2. and
If you know you're going to
3-4-3.
be overrun today against Arsenal at the Emirates in midfield, change it.
Yeah, I just
If
didn't
you
think
know
he'd
when you're
counteract
here,
that.
play 4-2-3-1.
Cut
Play
your cloth.
4-5-2.
Cut your
Play
cloth accordingly. Okay.
Exactly.
If you want to play that type of football, Antonio, fine. You have to have the
But we've
personnel
got
for
the-
it.
But we have.
And if you haven't quite got what you want,
Haven't we?
change slightly to what you have got. Then
If
you
Kane
know,
drops
it's-
deep, he's got Sonny up front. If Kane drops deep, he's got Richarlison. He's got different outlets all the time.
But his mindset is that if we go 3-5-2, we're harder to beat, but we're less likely to win.
Do you know the irony behind
So
it?
he goes.
Is that a good
he
way of
goes-
thinking, though, lads?
Can
Come
I
on,
just say
I'm
that
just playing devil. That's how he sees it, and our best way to win is those 3 because we don't have those qualities wide. So that's how he's going to set us up. And let's be honest, that's how he set us up since more or less day one that he's
Yeah,
come
well,
in.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
And
not,
he's
I'm
got
not
top
like I
four.
say, I'm
No.
not agreeing with
I
it.
understand what you're saying.
But the fact that he'll say we got top 4, we've gone to those away games, got results. We haven't lost an away game since March. We haven't lost this season. I
mean-
must be getting something right.
not
in
just
that
day
system.
one here, Jason. Day
No.
one since he
Exactly.
started
Yeah,
managing.
exactly. They are
Exactly.
facts. They are
The
facts.
irony
Every
behind
Exactly.
this is
managed.
since January, we have the second most points in the Premier League. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
Yes.
Behind
And
City,
we've
yeah.
also scored the
Spot on.
second most goals.
Yes,
or
exactly.
third.
Yeah.
So that's quite ironic when
Just
as a
for-
fan base.
No,
we're sitting
I
here saying
agree with you.
we're
For
not-
today,
I know what you're
dominating
saying.
The ball. We're
I
not
know.
playing attacking free-flowing football, but we're scoring more goals than
Perception is not
exactly 18 other teams in
Yeah.
the Premier League.
spot on, mate.
It's difficult,
And I-
really, from Conte's point of view, to think that I'm doing something
I've,
wrong here.
I've always felt tactically the result puts the tactics into the context of the tactics comes from the result. So we made you and I watched the game. Remember World Cup, Russia v Spain.
Yeah.
Where Russia let Spain have the ball the entire game. I think it finished 1-1 because Russia got a penalty when Ramos handballed it,
Yeah.
and Russia won on penalties. and Spain absolutely battered them.
Dominated the game. Dominated the whole game.
And then somebody said after the game, Russia got their tactics right because they invited Spain on, they couldn't break through, and they won on penalty shootout. Well, if you play that game again, Spain win that game.
Yeah.
Chelsea lose to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
When Di Matteo was called a tactical masterclass or something, you play that Bayern-Chelsea final again, Bayern beat Chelsea, don't they?
Yep.
But because of the day and the result, you've won the tactical battle. It doesn't matter for me, the tactical
Boys,
battle.
we're going to discuss the penalty because, Lee, let's come over to you. Listen, Spurs, as we said, mentality shown it strong to get back into the game. Gabriel bringing down Richarlison in the box. And it is another derby goal for Harry Kane, obviously straight down the middle, called as you like from the penalty spot. I just want to actually talk about the build-up play that led to that penalty because we've been honest with you about it. Again, we're going to discuss all the players, but it was actually quite a poor pass from Son. So Richie had to really do a lot of work himself to actually make that penalty and actually get Spurs back into the game.
Yeah. It was a bit of a wide pass, an overhit pass, but actually the build up to get into that point was actually very good. Again, it's very quick, incisive, and I always feel that if we're doing one touch, quick, incisive play, that's where we look really dangerous. And to get up to that point, I think Son was running through the middle, wasn't he? And he then overhit the pass to Richie. But Richie done really well. I think his feet was excellent, and it was a stonewall penalty all day long. And Kane taking that penalty, I mean, there's no one else. We have a guy at him about free kicks, right? But there's probably no one else you'd want to have that penalty than Kane in an North London derby. And he loves scoring in North London derby.
He's a machine, Lee,
He's a machine, isn't he?
Because not just that, there was that little bit of argy-bargy on the edge of the box.
And then the ref
so he
ran
had to
across
wait,
him and all things.
So that builds pressure. That's what they were doing. They were just trying to build
down the middle as well.
And he mixes it up as well because normally he's into the side, he's top left. Today, bang, straight down the middle.
When he stood up,
down the middle,
when he stood up, did you want him to do a Panenka?
I
think in fairness to him,
It was nearly a Pennica, wasn't it? It was sort of a little
I think in fairness to him, the last time he was on international break was when he missed one against Dean Henderson, wasn't it? And he said he'd taken a lot of penalties that week against Dean Henderson for England.
Yeah.
He would have done exactly the same this week against Ramsdale. So
Yeah,
Ramsdale would have
have
watched him in England and taken penalty, and he thought, I've got to do something different to whatever I've done for England in
you
training.
could see in the international break when he scored that penalty against
What a
Germany.
penalty that
I mean, it's a phenomenal penalty. And then actually to do what he did today, as you say, it was like a half a Panenka, or it was straight down the middle. Thinking, hang on, is he going to get a little
It's a
arm? to it? But he
Panenka with
didn't.
steroids, wasn't it? Today?
Yeah, it's a bit fast version.
Just on Kane, I mean, listen, let's come around to you, Anne. Kane now, that is his 100th Premier League goal away from home. He becomes the first player in Premier League history to score, like I say, the 100 goals away from home. Now 14 goals in 18 North London derbies. Obviously, the element will be today, that penalty won't be remembered because the nature of Spurs going on to lose the game. But just maybe just a section on Kane, just again, how cool and calm he is from the spot. Bearing in mind, like I say, only a couple of games ago, missed a pen, showing the strength to get Spurs back in the game.
That's what he does for a living, isn't it? He's the governor here. So, I don't got much to say about that. As you said, we're not going to be remembering that penalty.
No.
We don't remember Lamella's Rabona because we lost that game 2-1. So, for me, it's all about the end result, and it wasn't good enough.
But you've
today.
just remembered it, Ant.
Well, only because we were talking about it earlier, I completely forgot about it. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I tell
another record, 44 goals in London derbies, which surpasses Thierry Henry's 43. Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Crazy,
And he
mate.
don't get no props either. You look at Thierry Henry now; he's lauded not just by Arsenal fans, but fans generally. And yet Kane, he's like, he's like you speak to people, Thierry Henry or Harry Kane. You kind of think yourself, if he was Horatio like Canelio or something, you go, oh, what a player, because he's like Harry Kane, like white bread and butter, isn't it? It's like,
is he the first Premier League player to 100 away goals?
He's extending his record.
Wow. But again, I have to say a massive shout, and then Adichia says it on the screen, and a regular viewer and listener, again, Richie's determination won us that pen. Richie's determination and the touch, similar to Forest
after that terrible ball.
Yeah,
he just made this little touch which drew the foul, and that little touch was sensational.
And
absolutely.
If we play 3-5-2, who's the one who's not playing today? Richie.
Yeah.
So we don't score.
Guys, this next subject we're going to talk about is going to be tough. I mean, Frank touched upon it earlier. Hugo Lloris. I mean, I don't know how many individual errors you can have in one phase of play for a goal. I mean, this is, if you ever talk about goals Spurs concede in North London derbies, I mean, this is it. So to try and put this in the most simplistic way, just an absolute
How
mess
many
at the back.
individual errors have we ever had against Arsenal? I'd love to find that out.
And
But,
Chelsea.
but this is the
And
argument
Chelsea.
why, again, you look at the fact, I think, was it 3 wins in 53 there over the course of the Emirates and Highbury combined. It is because the individual errors, the moments in which you need strong mentality players, Spurs just don't seem to be able to have that grit. Even when you've had Mourinho, you've had Conte, Pochettino as well. For some reason, even with these top-class elite managers, they still can't eradicate these moments. And you have to wonder why. But Frank, let's come over to you because, listen, we had Saka's shot, which originally was pushed out by Lloris. Romero then tries to guide it back under pressure. It then goes under the keeper. And Jesus pokes it home.
I don't think he tried to guide that back. I think it hit him. I think
hit him,
he expected Lloris to catch the ball. But I think if you look at Perisic, I think it was Perisic and Son, that was so passive against Saka. I mean, he should never have been allowed that space to cut in and shoot the whole passage of play. But
100%.
Son tracks back. There's 2 of them. They're both so passive. It's like they're both almost pretending that they're sort of there and doing something. No one's really engaging with intent anyway. And obviously, Lloris, for me, he's got to do better. But
It's a clown.
Should have
car
pushed
on
it wider
fire,
as
innit?
well,
The
shouldn't
whole
he?
thing was just a clown.
Should have pushed it
car.
wider.
He's
Totally
got to push it wide.
to
Right?
his right, push it to your right. And if you're not going to catch it, just push it away.
Just to, again, Frank said this earlier, this stat, which, again, we have to just draw upon. Hugo Lloris, 344 Premier League games, 21 errors leading to goals, vs the big 6, 11 errors in 91 games, vs the rest, 10 errors in 253. Again, more defending against the better teams, but you do wonder whether the pressure on the big occasions gets to Hugo. Let's start with you, Liam. What do you think
He's
on
won
that?
a World Cup.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I was lauding before.
It was a big mistake in the final.
Yeah,
there.
I was literally about to say that.
Costa.
He did win the World Cup, but also he did make a mistake in that final. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about him as a whole of his career. But what I will say today is I agree with Frank 100%. It was complete calamitous. He's got to be doing much better there. Generally, all these North London derby kind of mixed teams, Arsenal, it's as bad as a bloody the mixed scarf that people wear. So you can't wear that, and I don't like doing them mixed teams either. But everyone's putting Ramsdale in Ramsdale. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, what? Everyone's put, and then you see that today, and you think, oh,
I'd still put Hugo in.
I know, but we would. But you know what I mean? Like where I'm coming from. It was a horrendous error. And actually, we were talking about this in the game as well. Some of the possession before that second goal was really sloppy. And it was like it was unavoidable. Like a Bentancur little flick behind and didn't quite come off. And it was kind of like, actually, if you just kept that simple, that whole passage of play wouldn't have happened. I know that's easy to look at in hindsight. But when you're looking at back, you just think sometimes keep the ball longer rather than trying to do the quick flick, or you know what I mean, when it's not on. And I think that's what was riling me and Crackers. I keep looking at Crackers. We talked about it, didn't we? We were like, mate, these little flicks and trick things sometimes, look, they're brilliant when they come off, but sometimes they're not the right to do it. And giving away possession, and it was probably a different phase during that time, but giving away possession and then a minute later that's happening, it's because you didn't think, oh, actually, let's keep the ball.
See, just on Hugo, I'm going to bring Cracks and Jason. Jason, to you first with Hugo. Listen, I love the guy, but you have to question why these big games, such high-profile howlers happen. I know he's won the World Cup. We joked there and just said that even
he saved against Aubameyang, right, at Wembley. That was an absolute high-profile game, and we don't get top 4. Sorry, we didn't get top 4 without him making that save. Yeah, but he made it. So you've got to have some balance. There is,
why is he making more individual errors against the other big 5?
That is the question we have to
ask. Because ultimately, you're going to come under more pressure, but there's still his mistakes.
Was a huge save in that 3-2 at City, wasn't there, last year? Made a ridiculous save. Was it
world-class save?
So you don't think it's about pressure? It's coincidental, or what do you think?
I think there's an element to you are under more pressure in terms of the opposition having the ball and having a ball around your box. So if there's more shots coming into your goal, you will make more mistakes through it. You'll concede more penalties to teams that are in your box than you will do to teams that let you have the ball and such. So there's an element to that, but it is a worry, that stat that he's made so many high-profile mistakes. But for me, I'd still pick him over Aaron Ramsdale.
I mean, we've seen links this week, Cracks to
Me too,
Black, obviously a really good goalkeeper at Atletico Madrid. Do you feel, listen, I think we all knew when Forster was coming in, he was always going to be Lloris's backup. We expect Forster to probably play against Forest in the Cup. Do you think Lloris is really lacking severe competition for that place?
Well, we start with the stats. You have to have a control measure against it. So where you've got those mistakes in these high-profile games, go and have a look at other keepers that are in or around us as well, like Ramsdale, Arsenal, maybe, I don't know, Liverpool. Look at the other teams, Alisson. And then if you measure those in those games, are they making a whole lot less mistakes? Or have they got similar stats to Lloris? So I think just to throw that stat up, it is a concern. But if they're all doing it, then a bit of a goalkeeper's union here. It might be a case of that's just a goalkeeper's life sometimes. That when they do make a mistake, their goals. We spoke about this before. When a striker misses a goal, but away you go, and they get to redeem themselves. When a keeper makes a mistake, that's it. It's done. So I think with those stats, I think you probably need a bit of a control measure. You need a man with a beard and a white coat to go away, take it to the lab,
VAR.
take a look and go, no, actually, look, the
Brown.
percentage of mistakes he's making against the big teams is really no different to Ramsdale, to Mendy, to De Gea. That you'd have to have a look at that.
Can I
But
ask you, Crackers, is it time to upgrade Hugo Lloris?
well, I think he's getting to an age where you just have to start looking at it anyway. And with keepers, I don't like Lloris being captain. Simple as that.
And you've said that consistently on Last Word on Spurs. You've always said that.
I just don't like a goalkeeper being captain. I don't know. It's just a personal thing. He's not a bad captain, but I think your captain needs to be on the pitch. Sometimes your captain,
as in the middle of the park.
Exactly. He needs to. Sometimes your captain might need to go over to the bench and speak to Conte, speak to Paratici, get round the players, go and get in the youngsters here. You can't do that as a keeper. You cannot. You're stuck. You're in that box, and that's it. That's what I don't like about a goalkeeper being captain. I mean, how many teams? I know Zoff for Italy back in the day won the World Cup. Lloris won the World Cup. But generally in club football, would you know anybody like to guess how many goalkeeper captains have gone on to win leagues?
Sounds like shit was coming in.
That won the Premier League, have we?
No, I don't think we have. I can't. FA Cup.
Nuno was a goalkeeper. Decent manager.
But can I just ask?
You see what I'm saying?
Can I just ask, boys? Obviously, Lloris is taking a lot of flack, and again, I'm conscious that many of, I think, again, we had comments today saying that Lloris also made 6 saves during the game.
Good point.
Romero, to some degree, listen, I think some have said, I think, Frankie, you said he was guiding the ball back rather. Was it guiding the ball back?
He didn't have time to react. It's just
so you think it's nothing to do with Romero? That move?
It's not. You can't blame Romero. He's in a position where he's got his back to goal. Sorry, he's facing the goal. His own goal. And anything that gets spilled in his path and he's not ready for, he's expecting Lloris to either palm that to his right-hand side or take the ball. So you can't blame Romero.
Anytime a goalkeeper has to make a save, 10 outfield players haven't done their job properly. It's as simple as that. That's a fact of goalkeeping.
It's too easy for Saka to get that shot off.
Exactly. It really was.
It's interesting.
Just on a quick on that point though, just for conversational purposes, when a ball comes to a striker and it bounces off him or whatever, people will go, "Oh, we should have been ready for that. He should have been reading that situation." So as a defender, Romero should be ready for whatever might happen. So yes, it bounced off him, but he should be in a position to be able to get rid of that ball. Should he not? I'm not saying.
Where does he turn it to? Where's his first? It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's hard because it also went under him
so quickly. It happened so quickly.
It was a nightmare.
But to be honest with you, it wasn't Romero's best performance today. He looked like certainly like a player who had been jet lagged in South America on international duty. And 100%. Just one thing on Romero, which I'd like to add, is it's a bit disappointing. And I understand that this group of Argentinian players are very passionate and patriotic, and at every possible opportunity, whether it's a meaningless friendly, whatever internationals are being played for Argentina, they seem to. I think Messi's actually got a clause in his contract that allows him to prioritise Argentina. So I understand there's a unity there within that current squad, but it just feels like at every opportunity. I mean, again, it's a pointless friendly. It's not a Nations League game, which is classed as competitive, such as European fixtures. But it just feels like he got stuck at the airport and he missed the first game. Now, we pay the man's wages at the end of the day. He's a club footballer by trade because obviously that's his profession. We pay his money. And it feels like maybe he could have just turned around and come back. Did he have to stay in the airport for, 24 hours or something ridiculous?
Yeah.
Wasn't
that a visa issue as well, though,
Frank?
Frank?
Visa issue.
Like, not being funny. How
well.
can you have a visa issue when you know you're going on international duty?
Well, that's up to his advisors. But if you remember before when him and Gio Lo Celso got pulled from the game, got abandoned. That was last summer. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And it seems like every he never seems to
Croatia,
prioritise Tottenham over Argentina, which again I do get an element of that. But again, that issue at the airport, it's quite draining. The flight back, as Ant can obviously explain, he's been flying around the world recently, jet setting about. It's draining mentally.
It is draining mentally. 100%.
How was Kazakhstan?
It was good.
But you know, we've been discussing this, and it just feels like if there is an opportunity for Romero to miss an Argentina game, maybe prioritise his club, particularly with, in my opinion, the biggest or joint biggest game of the season.
I think there's a bit of a cultural issue there, Frank.
That's a big
with
club
Argentina. I think with England, it's a little bit, the club's kept him, and you go, maybe European. When you get to South America and Latin countries, you expect it to turn up.
Yeah, no, I get that totally. I do. But if there's a situation whereby he's in what's happened to him, why not just come back?
Yeah, I think
I genuinely feel with Argentinians, Brazilians, Sonny for Korea, this phrase "meaningless friendly."
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
There's
no such thing.
Yeah. Guys, what we are going to do is we are just going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio, for our watching audience here on YouTube. We've got a good, like I say, 500 plus of you watching us live. Don't panic, Antony Costa. We haven't lost him for good.
I'm only 2 minutes behind you.
Has he gone to Kazakhstan again?
He's up to Kazakhstan. I've got to squeeze through a gap in the table there.
Honestly,
this could be fun.
Which I think Brian Hill would struggle to get through.
Oh, dear Lord. That's it. Thank you so much for all your support tonight. We're bringing you this show live from the Beavertown corner pin. Listen, of course, we wanted to have a
Where
win.
is the Beavertown corner pin? I'm on the laser cross.
That is bang opposite your south stand. I know you probably can't see it. It's getting darker here. We are right behind the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as we record with you right now. Gearing up for the big NFL tomorrow. And like I say, disappointing day. We all wanted to be bringing you a good performance, a good point. And unfortunately, it just hasn't been that case. It's been more of a therapy session. Thank you so much for joining us. It doesn't get any easier, guys. Emerson Royale. I mean, where do you want to start? It's just...
I think this is where I go for my toilet break.
Yeah,
when Zan's back, I'm off.
I think this is a conversation that's been brought up amongst the fan base time and time again this season, and he hasn't done himself any favours today with that decision to make that challenge completely pointless. But it seems to me the large majority of the fan base are in favour of trying something new at right wing back. I think in this system, as we've discussed, you need numbers, you need output. And I don't necessarily think he's a bad defender, Emerson Royale. He's athletic. One-on-one situations, I think he's more than competent and capable. He's good in the air. But he just doesn't give us that cutting edge, does he, in the final third? And even today, he was in some fantastic positions.
Yeah.
And it's just not happening for him. And I think that the unanimous sort of take on Emerson Royale and the right wing-back position is to try something.
A lot of them attacks were coming down his side, weren't they, in the first half? And, that space, and you just think... Because I keep trying to think back in my memory if I'm, like, going mad, but because I criticised Perisic earlier, I'm thinking, was that right or not? But I just felt a lot of the play in the first half was coming down inside Emerson Royale, and he's just not got it in his final third.
He gets in some fantastic positions.
Yep.
He picks up some really good spaces, but it's that final decision... that final ball, I mean, at times when he plays with Kulusevski, he's not on the wavelength that Kulusevski is when they try and play, or Kulusevski tries to initiate 1-2s and some nice little sort of interlinking play passages of play. He's just not on that level, is he?
No.
So, guys, I'll go and start with Ant. Who would you like to try at right wing back?
I want Spence to have a go.
I'm not daft, how long have we been saying this for?
I think he's been bought, whether it's a Conte signing or not. He needs to give him a chance.
Yeah.
Could be his opportunity, couldn't it now? Because Emerson's away now, isn't he? For what, 3 games? He's definitely banned for 3 games. So it could be his opportunity, couldn't it?
Doherty, obviously, he's probably going to get a shot in front of him, but I just like to see Spence. I think he's, as we all know, he's young, he's hungry, and I want to see him play.
Joe, I just want to discuss
a shot at least.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to bring it onto the actual incident itself. I mean, let's start with you, and then we'll also work our way around the table. Listen, where do we start with this? Red card for Emerson Royale. Caught Martinelli on the ankle with a late challenge. I mean, there'll be that argument. Was it a red? Should it have been a red? But ultimately now for Royale, he is going to miss Spurs' next Premier League fixtures against Brighton, Everton, Man United. Lee, on reflection of looking back at it, was it a red card for you?
I think it was. I didn't say this earlier. I just kept my powder dry. And I do think it was. And the reason why, I don't know if you see my hands, is that he's kind of coming with a downward motion with his studs out. I haven't seen it back at all. I've only gone back to it. I haven't seen anything on the phone or anything like that. So I don't know all the close-ups. But for me, it looked like he come in and it was a rash challenge. I just think that he's given the referee an opportunity, like he's given him to make a decision. What I would say though, in real time, when Antony Taylor, wasn't it, pulled the red card out, I was gobsmacked. So I was like, oh wow, like I didn't think he was going to be sent off for that. But then when I saw it back in real time, like on the TV, it did feel like it was a bit of a not a chopping motion, but he came down with his studs up. And yeah, I think I agree with you, Jace. Actually, if that was Zaka or whatever, Shaka, we would be absolutely going mental for him to be sent off. So I think that's probably the best way to look at
Let's
it.
come to you, Jace. I mean, firstly, sending off, yes or no for you?
Yeah, for me.
No doubt.
Yeah. I would have sent him off.
Okay.
Yeah. He's nowhere near the ball. Nowhere near the ball, and it's studs.
Because
along.
I look at it for me, and listen, I think from my perspective on it, and we'll get cracks as well on it on a second with regards to Royale. For me, listen, whether it's a send off or not, it's just needless. The guy was going nowhere.
Yeah, that's a bit that's really annoying.
Back is to goal. I just don't understand. Listen, if he was breaking up an attack and Arsenal storming ahead and it's the last man, then okay, you hold your hands up. But when you look at it, it's just so stupid. It really was stupid from Emerson. It was petulant. And you know what? I've criticised him a lot this season. I haven't criticised him defensively because I thought he's looked quite solid. But just that moment, it's a moment of madness, right?
Yeah, it is a moment of madness. And the other question that I think has come up, why didn't it go to VAR? It did go to VAR. It's just that the VAR would have said to the referee, or Taylor would have said, I've seen a bloke go studs up and catch a bloke nowhere near the ball. And the VAR official says, well, yeah, that's what's happened. The bloke's gone studs up and gone nowhere near the ball. So what's he going to overturn? I mean, it's not a clear and obvious error by the referee. I mean, it might be one that if he hasn't sent him off, they wouldn't have changed the decision either. But having made the decision, it's red. And you know what I'm like with referees. Don't hide behind referees all the time. You have 90 minutes where you control what happens on that football pitch. Don't blame a referee when it goes against you.
Well, the only thing I would say is I believe it is a red card, maybe an orange card.
Yeah, it's an orange.
Yeah, orange card.
But
a Beavertown orange.
If you reference Saka's challenge on Bruno Fernandes, it's a shame I can't get my phone up on the computer because look at that. That is high. It's exactly the same as challenge. Yeah. And the worst challenge was Virgil van Dijk against Everton.
Yeah.
And was that Onana or Gaye? It was far worse. So all we want is consistency.
Yeah, consistency.
Those two challenges, which are worse than Royales, are not red cards. Why is that a red card? In my opinion, both of those should have been sent off. Absolutely. But it's just that the inconsistency of Premier League referees is what riles the fans. And
but that inconsistency comes because we're sitting around the table and we're disagreeing with it, whether it's red or not.
And if you look on the TV,
and that's the problem with subjective decisions, isn't it?
We were looking at if you look at social media, if you look at the panel, we were watching BT Sport earlier, weren't we? During the sort of 3 p.m. kickoffs, and that was split. There were split decisions, and again, he's given the referee no choice, in my opinion, to make a decision first and foremost. But the position that Arsenal are in. It's a ridiculous train of thought that he's had there. What was
where he was.
It's where he was.
He's doing the pitch. Martinelli's already made the pass, by the way. He's not forced his decision. He's already made his mind up to go backwards. And he's just laid into him. And they're on the edge of their own box.
Brainless. He's just brainless. It's silly. It's brainless. I don't think he gets sent off here, but he gets sent off there. It's one of those ones. It's an away tackle, and you're going to be under the gun if you make it.
It's so difficult, isn't it? Because you kind of, hindsight and all that, and who would have known how the game would have panned out of 11? But again, Frankie said earlier, and obviously Jace as well, about we didn't create them opportunities as I mentioned earlier, but it doesn't mean to say that we wouldn't have gone on to create more opportunities in that second half. And actually, I was just looking in the blue book. It has travelled with us to Beavertown. Here it is. Come on, talk to me.
Can you open it? Show me the pages.
All it says in there is we lost. No, I was actually checking the stats at the Man City game, and even though we had 70, they had 20. They had 72% possession. We had 28% possession when we beat Man City at the Etihad, but we had 5 shots on target and they only had 4. And I think that's quite interesting because in the second halves of games, majority of the time, we do in that last 20 minutes or so have more opportunities and start racking up them shots. And the sending off of Emerson Royale basically blunted us from doing that. And that's what really killed the game off,
Conte's words were it ruined the game. I mean,
there you go.
I mean,
It
for
did.
you, is there anything else to say more on that? Rick?
No, it ruined the game, and then Conte had to sit back, scratch his head, and bring
15 defenders on.
4 defenders.
Can I just ask,
Rick was loving them subs.
I was like, who else is coming on?
just to follow on from that, I mean, again, I will just give a credit here. Harry Brooks on Twitter made a great point earlier.
He's playing well for England in the cricket, Harry Brooks.
Beautiful, mate.
The recruitment and of that right wing back position. Now, listen, bearing in mind we haven't yet seen Spence play. Doherty obviously got injured last season, so again, maybe jury's out on him. But we've had Walker, Trippier, Aurier, Doherty, Royale. Every right back signing we've had since Carl Walker, when this man made his debut on the show, he said if we sell Carl Walker, we're never going to be able to replace him. And here we are, 6 seasons on, and we still haven't replaced him.
I remember listening to that show. He's spot on.
All those signings, by the way, have got progressively worse.
Yeah. That's what I think the point he's making, isn't it?
And it's that old saying: you don't know what you got until it's gone.
Yeah.
Yes, Carl Walker had a mistake in him. Yes, it was sometimes rash challenge, but an overall right back, right wing back, it was exceptional.
Yeah.
I say that to a lot of my ex-girlfriends, Ant. I'm sure you do.
Guys,
He's here all week, ladies and gentlemen.
Just quickly, Rick, where do we all stand on Emerson Royale? And just to obviously,
I think that's a really good point actually on
I
Emerson
think
Royale.
on his throat after that today, to be honest. That's where I want to stand. I was backing him when earlier this season, Rick.
Sure. Yeah.
I was like, I could just see something in
said you
there
saw a
with him.
spot,
I could see there was something to build off of. There was kept saying there was a player in there. I just don't think there is. He's just not kicked on. I thought he would come and he would improve those weak areas.
Yep.
And he's not. He's going backwards. He is going backwards. I mean,
Imagine the frustration.
Defending, well beater. Once he gets over the halfway line, panel beater. And then brainless decisions like that as well. He's got to be upgraded.
See, it's hard again. You look at today, and Jace will bring you in. Again, it's same as usual from him. Quite sort of defensively, nothing really going forward. Then he gets sent off for a needless tackle. It just feels like Emerson. You know exactly what you're going to get from him, don't you? In terms of the game, he would be quite solid defensively, but you've got nothing going forward. I mean, just generally, where do you stand on?
I don't always find him solid defensively. I mean, you look at the second goal in Lisbon.
Okay,
it's really poor defending.
Right,
Gabriel Jesus sold him down the river today, didn't he? With him and Romero when he got through. So even defensively, I think there's moments of concern in there for me. But no, I mean, not good enough. And that's the one area where I really am surprised we didn't go big in the
do we have to remember?
Big surprise.
Do we have to remember, Lee,
Bayern
just to kind of summarise on Royale, he is a right back, not a wing back. And obviously, like I say, I think this week he's been heavily.
Not even sure he's a right.
Exactly.
But then I say, this week we've heard obviously reports that I think he spent God knows how much in terms of trying to acclimatise to the role what he's been asked to play.
To better himself. Okay, that's fine. Good luck to him, and I hope he.
Are you seeing any improvement or not?
No,
none at all.
No. It's been chance after chance. Crackers alluded to it. He could see someone in there, and maybe as a right back, he could work. But there's a reason Conte keeps playing Emerson because he can see something. But 60,000, 800,000 people on Twitter and fans can't see the progression. I certainly can't.
See, it's interesting.
Conte likes him.
Yeah. Today,
it reminds me of when different managers over the years just play these like Spurs players because they're nice guys, or they'll do a little, a good job, or they'll run through a wall for you.
Sakura.
Yeah.
You said it earlier.
Yeah, I said it. I can't remember if it was Ramos at the time, but I just think he's just not progressed, and it's such a weak spot in the transfer market. Why we didn't go for a proper
and so integral for Conte's system.
That's what I'm saying.
The comments coming up as well. Is that spot on, Crackers? And I agree. Like, is it because he's more of a right back and a right wing back? Yeah, but we need a right wing back. So why are you not going to spend 50, 60 million on a right wing back?
Yeah.
Why are we, with the greatest respect, why are we making do with Emerson Royale, who we've just all said is a right back, not a right wing back?
Yep.
Matt Doherty, who, in flashes, got some good stuff, but he's been nowhere near as good as what he was at Wolves. And then buying a young player that Conte well, let's be honest about it.
Clearly
Don't
doesn't
fancy,
want
does he?
to,
Don't
it's
fancy.
just-
Yeah.
But it reminds me of a young Carl Walker. I said this many shows ago.
I think he's going to come
Spence.
in, and I
I
reckon he's
just
going to
hope
smash
to
it.
see him to come in. He's got
He's
pace
gonna.
to burn.
I think he's going to do
Could
it.
you imagine him today against Zinchenko?
He's got a lot of potential,
He's
in my
got a lot of
opinion. He's
potential.
also very much a Spurs player.
So why then, Frank? Is he that atrocious in training? Why he's not getting that chance? Or is Conte just reluctant to trust him at the moment?
I think
Stubborn.
he's very specific about the system and how to play that system. And obviously, I think with Spence, he's a young player. He's got some fantastic attributes going forward in particular. But Rick, it's a tough question, and I can't answer that because obviously I don't know. Conte hasn't really said much about Spence.
Again
apart
today, even in the post-match interview, Conte coming out and defending Emerson Royale, saying he's a young
not going to put him
player.
under the bus, though,
I
is he,
mean,
Rick?
maybe he won't put him under the bus, but I mean, I think again, it's a really hard one. He's down if he doesn't. He doesn't. He comes out and criticises him.
A
Then
couple of big buses today as well, parking, weren't there, on the pitch for Spurs in the second half.
Oh, that
But,
was
but
just
he went and got a specialist in the wing back position in Perisic in the summer, obviously on the left hand side. And on the right hand side, I think this was, again, the general sort of opinion of most Spurs fans is we needed to go the extra mile to get a capable right wing back of a sort of world class or high level. And
That's what I'm saying. That one or two, it's so important, that position, and you just got to go
to the
again.
system.
And
is
Why did,
so important.
why did we loan out Reguilon? Why?
because I think Conte came to that decision that he feels Sessegnon has got more to his game than what Reguilon has. And again, whether that's right or wrong, again, is maybe up for debate. Because I think even with Sess today, you know,
I think he would
Perisic
play
is
Lucas
favourite.
more. I think he had a plan. Sorry to interrupt. Sam.
Go, Lee.
I think he had a plan to pay Lucas Moura as a right wing back. We saw it in the pre-season,
Yep.
and I think he had a plan. And obviously, that was scuppered for Lucas being injured. He ain't played a minute, has he? Because he's been completely
Lucas
injured.
was actually at one point, if you remember earlier in the season,
Starting.
coming on before Doherty.
But yeah,
Whether that was for injury or not, but it seemed, and he name checked him in an interview saying that he can play in that position.
and then in
So-
the close season when they with South Korea, the whole tour,
Yeah.
he was playing as a right wing back, and he talked to him about it. Maybe he could play there. You know, I just
We saw him
wonder-
play Kulu there against Marseille when he
Yeah.
made the change.
Yeah, I just
But
wonder
with
whether
Kulu
or
out,
not he
with
thought
Lucas out,
Lucas-
with Emerson out,
Yeah.
if he doesn't think Doherty's fit, then
If he's not playing Spence, then we've
you
got a
know,
problem.
Yeah.
Do you think he should give Spence a go personally?
I think he should do now
100%.
for sure. But I mean, the worry is he clearly doesn't trust it. I mean, he doesn't trust Bissouma yet.
No.
So why is he
No.
going to trust Spence
Yeah.
yet?
guys,
That's the bizarre thing that you've gone and bought Bissouma and he just doesn't trust him.
yeah. How many times have you heard me say this on Last Word on Spurs? Conscious of time.
Conscious of time. Come on, Rick.
The cricket's on.
Cracks,
Speed it up, Sam.
Cracks, come round to you. Listen, I think obviously at the time of when Arsenal are then getting the third goal, Spurs are warming up. A whole host of subs that I haven't mentioned at all today, as you boys know. Just the four being lined up. And again, like I say, at the
It
time,
reminded me of when we signed all them 7 players, just lining up.
I mean, and
at the
when
training ground.
we was all watching this together, and Ant was like, "Please don't clip this." There was, like I say, the four boys warming up,
So
and at the time, Arsenal were progressively going forward, and they get their third goal. Now, ironically, it's Martinez running into the space left by Emerson, not being on the pitch. That then the ball breaks for Xhaka, places it beyond Lloris, and at 3-1, I think we all feel the game is
Done.
over.
Yeah.
And what compounds it even further is, again, which I know is raising a lot of questions in the comments here and generally after the game, is Conte decides to make 4 changes: Sessegnon, Doherty, Bissouma, and Sanchez on for Richarlison, Perisic, Son, Longley. Now, after the game, Conte's there's an admission there. There's a gentle admission that he's made those for
Yeah.
essentially damage limitation.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
No, not at all. It's what I said at the start of the show. I don't know. It's the North London. In other games, maybe, and I get why he done it. But as a fan, I'm not manager of the club. As a fan, that giving up with 20 minutes to go. That's a game where you just like we said, if you nick one,
Yeah.
you're back in it. These derbies, anything can happen. We saw it with a 4-4 that time. You know, I mean, the team that started and the team that finished, it's like Atomic Kitten's career, wasn't it? It was like just a completely different lineup from where you started to where you
You
finished.
talk about the Sugar Babes.
Sugar Babes.
Sugar Babes, yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. Take that.
Poor Atomic Kitten, we've
Take
lost
that.
him now.
Your band, take that.
They're not
you
coming
know,
on for the
I
next show.
don't- But
I know what you mean.
It's just I couldn't have it, Rick. I couldn't have it. And
Not with
I
25
tried
minutes to
to
go.
calm down a little bit,
Yeah.
and we've.
Well,
you
can I
know,
just
we
say?
come on
Can
here
I just say?
7
At the
o'clock.
time, I know Jason walked in. Jace, obviously, we didn't watch the game with Jace. Jace came later on, and Jace, you didn't see actually the post-match interview, but you came and said through the game at that point, through the towel in, right?
Yeah, I felt that as soon as he made the the substitutions. Like I say, it wasn't so much that he made 4, it was the fact that Son and Richarlison both went off together, and you just left Kane. You thought, that's it. He's giving it up. I can't see this team scoring twice in 20 minutes with what he's left on the pitch. So, no, I would have preferred, like I said, I'd have preferred Kane and one of the others if he was going to do that. I'd have still left Son or probably Son on.
We didn't have an out.
Probably Son because there was no.
I mean,
outball.
our lack of pace after those substitutions.
So bad, wasn't it?
With no
Those
pace.
two.
It was like treading in mud.
There was literally it almost felt like at that moment the game was gone. I mean, Lee, we had a heavy debate during the game. I mean, Spurs at that point then switched to a 5-3-1. So at that point, Spurs' team were Lloris, Doherty, Romero, Dyer, Sanchez, Sessegnon, Højbjerg, Basuma, Bentancur, Kane. We even then saw Oliver Skip come on to replace Højbjerg. He got his first appearance since January the 23rd. It felt like an exhibition at that point.
If you notice, sorry, before Lee talks, Arsenal fans were cheering when they all come on, as if
almost like they knew the game was
I
gone.
knew that was it.
Yeah.
Do you know what it's like? It's like going to see the Beatles, Rick, and Lennon and McCartney go off, and they just leave George Harrison and Ringo there to sing the rest of the songs.
And then bring Costa up.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're going to finish with Hey Jude, and George Harrison's having a go at it. Like, you know, whilst Lennon and McCartney sit on the bench or in the dressing room.
Agree.
If you bought a ticket for that concert, you'd be fuming when you come out, wouldn't you? If you haven't got them two in the lineup.
Can you offer any perspective? Can you offer any perspective, Lee, as to why he's made those 4 subs?
I agree for the most part. I think for me that. And the comment said on there from the English boy or whatever's hand.
Yeah, that was the English king.
Yep. You know, at the end of the day, the players knew it, the manager knew it, we all knew it as fans. The game was done. We're sitting there going, "Oh, the game was done."
But how do you feel if you're there today?
Hang on. So then, then when he makes them changes, actually, it's not all right to be there. We'd be lauding that as an amazing decision if we go on a 10-game winning streak now and Son has avoided a hamstring injury or Richarlison's avoided a freaking bad knee or whatever it is. We might never know that, and that's the hindsight thing. But, and I get the points that you were making, but would you not also rather, if they had stayed all on the pitch, run themselves into the ground, concede another 2-3 goals, got absolutely ruined 5-6-1 with them on the pitch, isn't that even worse? And by the second token, are you basically saying that the players that we brought on aren't good enough? Because Sessegnon was for Perisic, Skip was for Højbjerg. So it's not as if he's bringing off Son and Richarlison and putting on Davison. Davison coming for Longley. We were down to 10 men. And typically when you go down to 10 men, most coaches, including if, thank goodness I'm not, if I was one, would sacrifice a striker to put on a defensive midfielder or something. So
that's where it hurt us not having Kulu and Lucas. Because if you take Son, Richarlison, and Kulu and Lucas come on, it doesn't feel as
would have
bad.
started Kulusevski today.
But you know what I mean.
Obviously,
you'd have taken Kulu and Son off, and you'd have brought Richarlison and Lucas on. Then it doesn't feel as bad.
Is it also the element of it, Frank? Also because it is the North London derby.
Well, I think it's happened before, and I mentioned this earlier that under Pochettino, I was actually at the Emirates, and we went 2-0 down. I think there was 20 minutes left, and one of maybe our live listeners or viewers can actually help me with this, but I forget what fixture it was. But he took Dele Alli and Harry Kane off because we had I think it was a Saturday kickoff, and we had a game on a Tuesday. Yeah. So it has happened before, and from a managerial point of view, it's different to us because we're the emotional supporters. Yeah. This is our biggest away game of the season. If you're paying money to go and watch the game, and you've sacrificed your afternoon away from your family or your kids or wherever it may be that you're doing to go and support the team, then you don't see that context of why they're making that decision. But from a manager's point of view, they've got a whole season to think about, and we've got a very busy period coming up. So,
but play that through. Again, I agree with you, but play that through so we don't make the changes. It keeps Son and Richarlison on,
gives us pace.
We lose 6-1, right? Because they weren't playing very well. We lose 6-1. Just say, how did your play? You paid your £200. Exactly the same. How are you feeling?
But
humiliating.
Equally, if they stayed on and then
exactly,
I know,
and that's
so
exactly.
This is the thing for me. In the last 10 minutes, if Spurs grab a goal back at 3-2, that Arsenal stadium is then nervous. You saw today there was groans, there was moans at every misplaced pass from Arsenal.
I agree with
10 men. That's the only thing you've got to look at. I get it from the fans' point of view because we're not going to be naive, and we know that there are still fans that pay 150,
absolutely,
today, who can't get direct from the club. So we know that happens, and you'd be really peeved if that was you, obviously. But I just think at 3-1 down, I do get what you guys are saying, and it was essentially throwing a game, but I didn't see a way back for us personally. No. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Look, comment there on the screen with Blue Stat. I think he said, is it Blue Strat?
Yeah, there's
So, look, damage limitation, rotation,
Or
or
throwing
throwing in the towel. Take your pick.
And I
And
think-
it was kind of any of them things, wasn't it?
I think having lost in Lisbon, that Frankfurt game is bigger than we perhaps
Pretty big.
thought.
now.
Well, it is
would
to
be.
Conte based on
'Cause
those changes
we
today.
certainly should have got something in
Yeah.
Lisbon.
Yeah.
We didn't. Suddenly he thinks we can't really
Yeah.
go to Frankfurt and get beat again and then have to chase the group.
Yeah.
So I think that's that. And without a doubt, you can see now he's starting 11, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, takeaways. I'm sure you're sick of hearing this takeaway. Harry Kane, free kick blocked.
One of our own.
Frank saved in the draft. That Harry Kane, another free kick blocked.
I don't understand, and there's got to be a bit of self-awareness from H. And I know he's a Spurs legend. He's one of my favourite players of all time, but he cannot take free kicks. And I don't know if the club if someone's he can't.
Conte's game was one of the
take
three.
corners or free kicks. They're the two flaws in his game. And he's got to have some form of self-awareness, because how many free kicks is it now that he hasn't scored from? Does anyone know?
Since 2016 or
It's
something.
ridiculous.
812.
You've got to
Yeah,
do it.
something like that.
It's all very well and good saying, I
But-
said it earlier, someone's got to, close to him or his team or someone at the club's got to say, look, you've got to come off free kicks. But if they're not going to do it, surely he
That's
knows
Conte.
within himself.
Something like
Conte
that.
has to do it.
But something like that with a
I
free
don't care
kick.
how big Kane is. Conte's the
I know.
boss. He's
Yeah.
the big boss
But-
man. So he says no more.
But
And if
but with
Kane
the
don't
free
like
kick-
it, tough. Yeah, that's the way.
Where
it has
the
to be
free
with
kick
a
was
governor.
situated, it should have been a Bentancur whipping a ball in. Kane in the box. What's he doing now?
I agree with that. Spot
What's
on.
he doing
I
taking
agree.
a free kick? We've got
Want
no
him in
other
the box, mate.
You're not going to
strikers.
score from there. It's very
never gonna
unlikely
score.
that you're going to score
Exactly.
from that angle, from that distance. Just get in the box, get
Whip
someone
the ball in the box.
who can
Bang.
curl a ball into to a dangerous area. and
Giovanni
got no
Vio.
chance of scoring.
I bet that wasn't 4,762 out of
if
the
it
playbook,
was, can we get that one out of the book?
Yeah, we need.
Can we scrap that
there's
one?
no way
Um,
Giovanni put that in the playbook, did he?
Guys, just in terms of just wrapping up some of the other players' performances, again, we've got to squeeze in a Frankfurt preview as well. Clement Longley.
Cricket's on, Rick.
Yeah,
Come on,
it's
hurry
on
up.
underwater volleyball as well coming. Clement
Very
Longley.
good,
Now,
Good,
some will
good player.
some will feel today that he probably on the whole was our best defender on the day. I mean, his first North London derby. Let's come around to you, Cracks. What did you make of Longley's performance?
Brilliant. I like him. I really like him. He's steady, he's assured.
Sure,
He doesn't get phased by big games. So he's just one of those players that looks like he will give you something every time.
Didn't make any mistakes.
No, he's very,
That's a
he's
bonus.
very, very sure-footed. He's another one along that sort of Kulusevski mold. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? He
Yeah.
just always gives you that something in his position. So he's dependable, he's reliable, he's steady, and I really like
Ben
him.
Davis
Another-
is talking about there. Isn't it? We're
Well,
talking about Longley.
Joe,
right?
what I will say to you is that as I will say to
7
you,
out of
as
10.
good as
7 out of 10
as good as
every week.
Longley was today, I think we also did miss maybe Ben Davis's experience in the team today. You'd argue.
Well, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought Longley was super.
was good.
Oh, I
I
thought
would-
Longley
I would-
was good.
Playing out under pressure.
Yeah, not as a
It's
swap for like
fantastic.
for like. I wouldn't have swapped Longley for Ben Davis, but I think generally Davis on the whole-
Emerson for Ben Davis, maybe.
Well, I think it'd be anyone now for Emerson Royale, bless him. Eric Dyer today, really listen. There were some good defensive moments from him. There was the argument that maybe his ball watching at periods. I mean, just to touch upon Romero, Frank, you brought it up before. He hasn't quite been the same before this recent injury. Are you worried just generally about his form at the moment? The last few games, there's been suggestions that he's been at fault for a number of goals. Worried about Romero at all, generally?
His form's definitely dropped off. It's a bit of a concern because as the games go on and it hasn't been addressed, it doesn't bode well for us. Maybe he needs to be pulled out for a week or two. I don't know. But in that situation, again, he's recently come back from an injury. Maybe there has to be a conversation. I know I'm not going to go over old ground because I mentioned it before, but why is he going away with Argentina to pay two? I know what you're saying about the way that he's viewed in South America. They are pointless friendlies. He is starting at the World Cup. His place is cemented in that team as long as he's fit.
There's every chance he's playing through an injury still. And
Possibly, and
you
that
know,
didn't help.
He looks like that type of lad that maybe not telling the club, telling the country.
It doesn't look right.
He's carrying something, and he's like,
I
I
think it's
can't,
The
I
flight,
can't give
the
up.
time,
That's not me.
It's like 24 hours of
Yeah,
flight time. You've
yeah.
done the wait at the airport. It
Yeah.
magnifies the injury. It's not
Yeah,
good for
yeah,
recovery.
no,
Well, you
exactly.
could be at home or at the club
Yeah.
doing your recovery. And I just feel, it looks like to me that he's not playing at the level we know he can
See,
play.
it's interesting. Loads of people suggesting here that is Romero's dropping form, and again, we have to be balanced about this because we're not talking about a player that's completely gone off the kilter. He's had a few poor performances, but does it come because we've got the impending World Cup now? Where this is again a bit of a weird one. We've got this situation where we've got a World Cup during the actual season. How many players now are actually thinking I can't afford to get myself injured for a World Cup league? Do you think we're going to have that question more when we have defeats, or
Yeah, but I mean, when you're talking about Romero specifically, I mean, he went in for a cruncher, didn't he? Like a classic Romero today on
Odegaard.
Left a bit on him as well, to be fair. So I don't think, in them moments, I think, like, I'm not a professional footballer. Again, thank goodness for the viewers and listeners, especially playing for Tottenham. But I think that you don't think like that in moments, do you? You don't think like, oh, I'm going to have... I just think in the moment, you just do what you need to be able to do.
Yeah.
I do think there is an element across the board, though, that in most players' minds, it is the World Cup.
Yeah.
That, even if it's 1% of your brain, 0.5%, you're thinking, World Cup soon. That is going to maybe take an edge off subliminally. So I hear Frank's frustrations, and I share them, mate. It is very frustrating, that whole sitting in airport scenario and whatever. But he struggled with that Mitrovic goal, and
does the Argentinian manager not have to be a bit more, in my opinion, cautious, because he is an integral part of that team? So from his point of view, again, they are meaningless friendlies. Should there been a conversation for him to say, why don't you put your feet up? And
the thing is, he's on a record, isn't he? I think the last time they conceded a goal, Argentina or something, they've kept like 10 or 11 clean sheets on the trot. Romero started every single game, so it's pretty. He wants to carry that on. For him, it's everything, isn't it? And for us, we're Spurs more than Argentina, aren't we, I suppose?
And currently,
I mean, just in general with it, and again, I'm not defending it. But we talk about them being meaningless games, but look at the reaction when England lose to Hungary in a Nations League. It's a meaningless game. But look at the outcry that goes on. Look at the outcry when England lose in Italy last week. Meaningless game. Where was the meaningless?
More to do that we could be relegated in the games that we've played, so it's a bit more...
There's no such thing as a meaningless into that. It feels like it to us, but those national managers, it's what their last friendly before the World Cup. Yeah. So to the equivalent, it's our last pre-season game. So you build, you play. If this is pre-season, Tottenham the week before the season, we're playing our strongest team. We went to Rangers, didn't we? Played what at the time was our strongest team. It was a meaningless friendly, but the manager don't see it that way.
Yep.
He wants a settled team to say, this is my team going to the World Cup. It's meaningless to us because it's a totally different nation and we're concentrated on Tottenham. But there's no such thing as a meaningless friendly.
I get that, but who pays the players' wages?
Yep.
It is a job at the end of the day. It's a profession. And I know there's obviously passion when you represent your nation, but when the clubs pay the wages, that's the frustrating aspect for me.
But tell the player, say to him, I'm stopping you going for your international. See how quick he hands the transfer request in. Says, I don't want to play here then.
And I just wanted to discuss Ivan Perisic with you. Listen, today, it's one of those games with Perisic where, listen, throughout the season so far, he has brought assists to the game for Tottenham. He has stepped up. I mean, today, if we're being honest with you about it, he had a real tough time up against Saka.
Yeah.
And these are the games that you want the Perisic's to come in to make that difference in terms of delivery. He actually put a really good ball in for a corner, which on another day, he actually goes in. Really good. I think it was Perisic's delivery for the corner, right? I think it was. Yeah. I mean, I say generally overall with Perisic, disappointing performance from him today?
Yeah, disappointing today. I think maybe should have give Cess a start and then maybe Perisic to come on like what he did with the sub. Lee made a point. We were sitting there watching the game and he went, I've not been impressed with Perisic today. And I sat back and I thought, he's right. Is it because I was so excited for this good player to come over to our club and I'm scared to criticise this player? But everyone deserves critical.
Critiqued a lot of the players today. Yeah.
So I think in terms of Perisic, we put him in for these big games. He's been there, he's done it. He's been in World Cups and he's won championships.
There's also an element,
and he wasn't good today
of Arsenal not letting him be good.
Yeah, that was my
Don't
point.
forget that. I know they're the mob down the road. I know we don't like them.
No,
but they have improved, and sometimes you're not going to get your own way. And they've got some decent players, so they didn't allow him to be good. So that's where you've got to be a little bit smarter.
It's another one, Crackers. He took a knock in the week on international duty, didn't he?
Exactly.
From Højbjerg.
From
Højbjerg. That's typical Tottenham.
Just on the midfield, boys. Højbjerg there. I mean, today, listen, he worked hard. He had a shot that went over the crossbar in the second half. Listen, he had a real tough job in that centre of the park today. I mean, Arsenal's extra man, you felt really kind of nullified him, and even more so after that red card. Bentancur, to some degree, was off the pace on a couple of occasions. I mean, he took on more of an attacking role after that red card. I mean, the two midfielders, question marks over them at all today, Lee, for you, or just difficult day at the office in general?
I just thought, again, that there was no... I mean, Højbjerg had a good opportunity, didn't he? I think maybe...
At least hit the target.
Yeah, like at least hit the target, and he didn't. And I think
similar to Parties, isn't it?
But,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you know, it was very similar, actually, very similar. Party hit it sweetly, didn't he? Like, I think with Bentancur, and you know, he is the reason, of course he is, right? But I think with Bentancur, he has games where he drifts in and out. Do you know what I mean? Like in the sense of he can be
Gets bullied off the ball a little bit
good,
today.
but then sometimes he can be like, oh, you've given the ball away in a bad area there, and actually you notice it a little bit like a goalkeeper situation. You notice it there because you know if you give a ball away in your final third, it gets nicked off him or something like that. That's where you can see it. So, like I think it was. I don't think they did massive wrong stuff, but it was pretty average. You know, if you're giving them 6 out of 10, maybe. I just want to say you mentioned about little knocks and whatever in international duty. It has gone unnoticed a little bit today on the show that Hugo Lloris dropped out of international duty due to a thigh injury.
Yep.
And obviously he's had a stinker.
Maybe
he's a little bit injured as well. So I don't know, but yeah, Højbjerg, Bentancur, not their best driver from that midfield.
Just on the front three, boys. We'll start with Richarlison. Again, I keep saying conscious of time, but we're going overboard here. Cracks, let's come over to you. Richarlison, you know, forced that early save from Ramsdale. Of course, was a nuisance for the hosts and won that penalty in the first half. Really had limited, you'd say, success in that second half generally before coming off. Like I say, he's going to have now, you'd say, a pretty much run of games ahead of him. Kulusevski's going to be out for a period. Do you back Richarlison to step up? Because he has shown the ability to.
There's a ton of energy. We've seen it with him already. You know, he gets about the pitch. He won that today. But again, you know, it's credit, as much as I hate to say it, it was a credit to Arsenal. They nullified our dangerous players. They did do a good job on us today. And like, you know, it's, I don't like to sit here and say it, but that's the truth. So they managed him well. They managed Bentancur well. They just managed those one-on-ones. They just managed
the jewels, isn't it? So you know, talk about jewels, isn't it?
Were outstanding. Saliba was fantastic today.
So
there was some great individual
jewels.
They were. You've got to be fair.
There wasn't that. It wasn't just us not being at it. They actually just managed us better as well. So you know. That's where we've got to get to. We've got.
It was always going to come hard, wouldn't they?
Yeah. On the back of the game, on the back of that North London derby last season.
Come hard.
Yep. Frankie, Harry Kane. Listen, again, you'd say for Kane, relatively quiet start, you know, but again, by the half-hour mark, 14 goals in 18 North London derby appearances. Did little else of note. I mean, can you be critical of Kane when he sticks the ball in the back of the net on a high pressure game?
I thought he done well today. As I say, the ball to Romero was fantastic. If you look at the build up to the penalty, the touch, he lays it off first time, and I thought he played well today. You
got no criticism in terms of his overall performance, adding more to the game, no?
I think it's hard to be critical of Kane today. Perhaps, as Jason said, he may have pressed better, but I don't think that's part of his makeup anymore.
No.
But I feel that the players, Son and Richarlison, made more poor decisions in that final third when we had the 3-on-3 breaks that we had, the breakaways, than Kane did. I thought Kane's passing was good. If you go back and watch that game, obviously without the emotion,
which you won't,
and understanding the result, I think you'll find Harry Kane play well today.
None of us are doing.
I felt as well that there were times where Richarlison got the ball on the right, or Son dropped deeper, and Kane was sort of ready to go in behind. They didn't find him.
I think Kane gives you lots of moments, lots of goals. But not so many magic moments like Son does. Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, there was that goal he obviously scored where he bent it in at the lane, which was fantastic. He gives you loads. He doesn't give you those wow loads. You know, like Sonny will give you like, wow, look at that, look what he's done.
Sonny's goals.
Exactly. You know, Richarlison gives you some of those. Kane is more consistent and steady. Yeah. So that's why I was surprised today. He might have been even better taking Kane off today and leaving Son on just to try and give you that miracle moment. Yeah,
Jason, come over to you just on Sonny. Like I say, before we preview Eintracht Frankfurt on Tuesday, Son really, you'd say to some degree, struggled with some of the link-up play there. You'd say maybe second half, which obviously then led to him coming off the field. There was a real lack of composure about Sonny today. Even like I say, the link up with Richarlison that led to the goal, it was actually quite a poor pass. And we're talking about Son on the back of a really, really good international break for him. Couple of great goals, one of a free kick of really good standing as well. You got any concern about Son? Although he scored a hat-trick against Leicester. Do you have any concern?
We got the hat-trick at Leicester and he scored for career in midweek or whatever, didn't he?
Twice.
A little bit, you know, his performance wasn't where he wanted it to be today, but I think, as like Cracker says, some of that is down to the opposition, closing him down quicker, not giving him spaces to play into. It's I'd have liked a little bit more from him today, but it wasn't to be. So, but Kane for me is a little bit. I've said it all season. I mean, he scored goals.
Yeah, he's not at his best though. He's not peak Kane.
I don't
at the
think
moment.
he's quite been the Kane that we saw in the second half of last season. Not
Kane
enough
at
for
the Etihad.
the Kane at the the Kane at the Etihad was brutal against them, wasn't he?
Yep.
And I look at him play for England, and there's times I see him play for England. I look at him and think, damn, what have we got up front for England? I don't think he's quite there at his very best at the moment. No. And I think you saw that again today. It's not that he had a bad game, but you're thinking, I'd have just liked a little bit more from him.
He needs to run them games. Like, sorry to interrupt. He does. I agree with that, right?
And I worry if the physicality now allows him to.
The last time we lost before today in a Premier League away game was at Manchester United. It was March the 12th, and we lost 3-2, right? Yeah. And the geezer that ran that game was one guy called Ronaldo, and he got a hat-trick. And that is what Harry Kane, to really, really go up to the...
He ran that game at Man City, as he said.
He ran that game at Man City. Why can't he go and do that today? Why not? Why can't you do that today? Like he did it at the Etihad, so he can do it, but why not? And I just wonder whether or not Richarlison, Son, Kane, when you look at Kulusevski, Son, Kane from last season, like Richarlison's brilliant. I'm not having a go at Richarlison at all. He's done fantastic.
You're saying
today.
It changes their form.
I don't think it changes it. I just think it changes the dynamic.
I say that now.
And I think Perisic coming in has affected Son. I do.
I think it's got to be Richarlison, Son or Kane. And Kulusevski, the balance is far better with Kulusevski, Kane.
I know he's injured,
but we are going to. But boys, listen. The reality is we are going to have to find a way now. We might be losing Kulusevski for a long, sustained period potentially. I have to say potentially because again, we have to wait the results of the scan, the MRI scan. But you do feel now, whatever happens coming to Tuesday, which we're going to go to next, Spurs are going to have to find a way. Before we do, like I say, look ahead to Frankfurt. Just down finally, you've been screaming for him all season. Basuma, one of 4 changes for Conte today. Of course, we had Doherty coming on, Sanchez as well. But on Basuma. He actually slotted into that midfield, prevented any real further attacks on Spurs' goal.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't really do much. He's just there just to see the game out, really. It didn't affect anything. But
you've been massively disappointed now. He doesn't get a run of games, right?
Frank said it before. You know, he was one of the best midfielders in the last 2 Premier League seasons outside that top 6 club. So when we signed him, I was very excited because I know what he can do. So from now until next couple of games, I'd like to see him start. I'd like to see him get a chance. What worse can he do?
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gives us a different option,
even
across that midfield.
And even if he doesn't want to change his formation, then rest
Højbjerg
or rest Bentancur or rest the other. Skippy's coming back, but that's what we've got to do. Everyone keeps saying to, or they keep telling us, the club keeps telling us, Conte's coaching staff, it's ridiculous. It's an absolute crazy schedule.
13 games in 10
we've just bought loads of squad
days.
players to make that squad. Like everyone's hearing it. They're not backups. They're squad players. The reality is, just start using the squad. Then. Let's see what happens on Tuesday.
Agreed. Well, listen, we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. Taking into this break, you're going to hear from Roberto Brembilla, who gives us his thoughts ahead of Frankfurt to come on Tuesday. And we've also got, like I say, one of the podcast officials for Eintracht Frankfurt giving us their thoughts. And like I say, we're going to do a quick couple of minutes on Frankfurt. It's coming around fast. It's coming on Tuesday. Cracks is back with me for this one.
I'm hungry. Tuesday. Is it a Frankfurter we're going with? I could do with a Frankfurter.
Boys, very quickly.
That's a beautiful cover drive, isn't it?
Oh,
look at that.
Very quickly ahead of Tuesday.
Sorry, we're watching
Eurosports
Eurosports now, Rick. We've tuned out.
Very quickly ahead of Tuesday, boys. Jace, reaction now. What is it all about? We obviously lost against Sporting. Need a reaction. It's now what we've had 3 points out of the first 2 games. Conte, like I say, bearing in mind he's rested. You'd say Son now ahead of the game for Tuesday. How important is this reaction now for you on Tuesday?
You always need a reaction on the back of a defeat, for sure. And you need a reaction from the Lisbon game where I thought we were passive for a lot of it. We weren't great against Marseille. So you need a big performance. And we need a result there, even if it's a point, so be it. But Frankfurt were excellent in the Europa League, but they're not going great guns, are they?
They've lost Costa, who was a fantastic
lost one or two. So there's no reason why we can't go there, but you're going to have to. It'll be a good atmosphere there. German sides, it's always noisy stadium, so you're going to have to go there, be concentrated, and you're going to have to go there and perform.
Yeah.
You can't just go there and just think, oh, this is a easy away. And our away European record in all competitions is really poor.
Yeah, let's come over to you, Cracks.
terrible,
What's the most important thing that you want to see as a reaction for Tuesday?
We've got to give a performance firstly and foremost. You've got to quieten that crowd down. That is a loud crowd. But I share Jason's concern. Away in Europe, we're unconvincing. I do really worry for Tuesday night, and then that's 2 in a row. If so, it's a huge game, not just for the result, for the performance and reaction. So let's see. But I have my concerns. I have to say, I really do.
Frankie, let's come to you. Frankfurt, listen, Spurs, on the basis of that performance against Sporting, Conte's record in Europe, we have to be honest with you, not too great. How important is this for Tuesday now to get up on the result?
It's massive, and I've made a mistake. Frankfurt had a difficult start to the season, but they've now beaten today Union Berlin.
Of course they have.
Unbeaten.
Of course they have.
With top and beat Bayern Munich last week. They're now 3 points behind Berlin Union, who are top, so they're 3 points off top. It's quite
10 men today as well.
Season so
10
far in
men
the
today.
Bundesliga. It's very close between the top sort of 6 or 7 clubs. So they've reacted well to that poor start, obviously, in time for playing us. But it's a huge game. If we lose, we're under all sorts of pressure. As Jason said, we're chasing the group.
Yep.
We haven't been convincing. Obviously, Marseille, before the red card, it was a pretty even game, really. We've been totally
boring,
honest.
passive,
Pretty boring and passive. Sporting Lisbon was disappointing. So, yeah, we do. We need a performance, but we need a result.
Yep.
And I would take a point, as Jason said, or a 1-0 win, a scrappy 1-0 win, so we can get that platform back and build from there after today's disappointing result. And obviously, the last
weird group, isn't it? Because most of the results unexpected. I mean, Lisbon goes to Frankfurt, wins 3-0. Lisbon goes to Marseille, and Marseille looks a decent side here, and we're unbeaten. Lisbon go there and beat them. Lisbon beat Tottenham. It's
Lisbon are
strange
in
group.
control of the group.
Lisbon are now in control of the group.
We have to. Am I right in thinking we've got Frankfurt in back-to-back games now?
Yes.
we have. So
got to take something.
we've got to take really realistically. We've got to take 4 points.
4 points.
Because otherwise we're then under huge pressure going into the last 2 games of the group. So Ricky is huge.
Mac, let's come to you. You're also back with me alongside Cracks for the game as well on Tuesday night. How important do you think this game's going to be? And also, in terms of changes being made, what do you expect Conte to do?
I think I want to see a reaction, 100%. What I'd like to see is a massive performance and go and absolutely ruin them 5-0. That's what I'd love. But I would take probably a 2-0. Look, to be honest, I'll take a point because I think in Champions League, you draw your away games and win your home games. You're done. You're through. It's virtually you're
10
through.
points.
And that definitely will happen in this group on the basis of the other results that have happened already. So it's not a major issue if we don't come away with a win. But what you want to be able to do is just go there, get a bit more confidence in there. I'd quite like to see some of the substitutes that were subs today almost come in and start the game and give them the confidence and the showcase that it's not just about the 12 or 13 players, because we've been told it's about the whole squad. So let's use the squad, even though it's a Champions League game, because we've got Brighton as well straight after that at the weekend. So got to keep going here, boys.
3-5-2 or 3-4-3?
I would probably go, I would probably go with 3-5-2. I would have a go at it, definitely.
Let's come to you, and listen, Lee references there. He'd like to see some of the players come in today that were substitutes. That would obviously mean we'd see Ryan Sessegnon, Matt Doherty, Implosion, Davinson Sanchez. Would you be in favour of those 4 guys?
Implosion, definitely.
Get him in.
I think instead of Højbjerg, I think Højbjerg's run himself to the ground. Yes, he's been very good this season, but he needs a rest because we've got Brighton. So it depends what team he plays for Brighton, Conte. But I want to see a reaction. I want to see at least don't lose the game.
No, absolutely.
That's basically it. Otherwise, we lose that. We're chasing the group, and I can't see us getting out of it if results don't go our way.
And let's start with your prediction ahead of Tuesday.
I'm going to go for a scrappy 2-1 win.
Okay, Macca, prediction?
I will go 1-1.
Okay, Frankie?
I'm very bad at these predictions, to be honest
I'm
with you.
shocking.
Your fault. It's the team,
conflicting emotion and obviously thinking between my heart and my head. But no, I think we'll actually do it. I think we're capable of getting a positive result there, and I think 1-0 or 2-1 to Spurs.
Okay, Cracks?
0-0.
0-0. Okay. God, that'll be interesting. Last word on Spurs. Bring the shit quiz for that one. Jace?
4-0 Frankfurt.
We are bringing the shit quiz if it's 4-0.
I'll go 1-1.
Yeah, I'm also going to say a 1-1. Guys, can I just say massive thank you for joining us. There's been a good 500, 600, 700 of you plus
Been
overall
brilliant.
watching us live from the Beavertown corner pin. Massive shout out to Sub Frantic,
Frantic
who've been,
boys.
like I say, the main men behind the sound engineers for
They're damn
tonight.
good taxi drivers as well.
Honestly, superb.
Excellent. Mate.
Preferential
amazing.
rates,
Thank
Jason,
you,
on the
lads.
taxi.
Thank you.
Preferential rates. The only thing is, one of them said to me as soon as I got in the car, you needed Ben Davis today. And I thought, he's obviously not a Tottenham fan.
You wouldn't believe it's just a man holding a little webcam,
Honestly,
would
yeah.
you, doing this?
All on Mum's net as well.
Harry's
Brilliant.
kept his hand that steady for
Oh,
2 hours.
superb.
It's
It's like the
incredible.
old
He's
days
just,
of the aerial.
just there holding a little,
Big
and the
shout out to
aerial.
Beavertown as
Yeah,
well.
and obviously, of
Amazing.
course, Beavertown corner pin.
Brilliant.
Guys, we're
Massive
hoping
as
this will
well.
be one of the first of many live shows we're bringing you, and we're hoping over Christmas we've got a live audience to join us. But can I just say a massive thank you for giving up your Saturday night for therapy on Last Word on Spurs. We are back with you for instant reaction on Tuesday evening with Macca, with
Cricket's
Crackers.
on, hurry up.
Crackers, and Macca are here. He wants to watch the cricket. Guys, thank you so much for all your support. Please, as always, keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.